Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving headfirst today into something huge, a real technological shift. We're talking about artificial intelligence, specifically these generative AI tools like ChatGPT, finding their way right into the heart of project management. PMAI, basically.
Yeah, and it's way more than just, a new piece of software. It feels like a fundamental change in how we even think about projects, how we plan them, how we run them.
So for you listening, our mission today is really to get past the hype, the buzzwords. We want you to understand the actual mechanics that how Gen AI is changing the whole project lifecycle and where the opportunities are for, well, innovation and growth.
And there's already data showing this isn't just theory, it's making a difference. I mean, back in 2019, KPMG put out a report. Organizations using AI were seeing, on average, something like a 15% boost in productivity.
15%. That's not small change, especially in project management where things can be so tight. That kind of efficiency boost is, well, it's massive.
It's definitely the promise, that 15%.
Yeah.
But we need a bit of a reality check, too. Our sources, they use some strong language. They actually describe Gen AI's advance like a tsunami.
A tsunami. Really? That sounds pretty dramatic. If the upside is 15% productivity, what's the big danger they're pointing to? Is it just jobs or something else?
It seems to be something more fundamental. The risk isn't really that projects will suddenly fail, but maybe that project managers might jump in using these incredibly powerful tools without, fully grasping the tech itself.
Ah, okay. So using it without understanding the under-the-hood stuff.
Exactly. Or the biases baked into the data it learned from, or the ethical lines you need to draw. The sources warn that project managers need to learn how to navigate these waves, these rapid changes, like right now. Otherwise, you risk letting a tool you don't fully understand drive key decisions.
Which means understanding the tool requires understanding where it came from. So we need to start at the beginning, right? The history that got us here, right? Because when we talk about Gen AI now, especially ChatGPT, it really feels like it just burst onto the scene in, late 2022?
It does feel that way, yeah.
Yeah.
But the roots go way, way deeper, almost a century, actually.
Yeah.
You have to rewind all the way back to 1932 to find maybe the first hint of a machine designed for a human-like task.
1932, what was that?
It was this invention by Georges Artzruni. He called it a mechanical brain. Essentially, it was a machine built for translation. It used a mechanical computer, encoded stuff on punch cards. He actually got the first patent for a mechanical translator.
Wow, so the very first idea was about language. That's fascinating given where we are now with LLMs.
It is, isn't it? And those early ideas, they sort of highlighted just how complex language is. That challenge then got formalized academically. Jump forward to 1950. Alan Turing publishes his huge paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence. That really laid out the theory, the idea of a machine that could imitate human thinking.
The birth certificate for theoretical AI, kind of.
You could say that.
Yeah.
And then the official starting gun for AI as an academic field was fired in 1956 at that big Dartmouth conference. That really kicked off decades of research.
And things moved pretty fast then.
Relatively, yeah. Just a year later, 1957, Frank Rosenblatt develops the perceptron. That was the very first artificial neural network that could actually learn from data. A basic learner, but still.
And the conversational part, the chatbots we see now.
The ancestor of that comes along in 1966. Joseph Weizenbaum creates ELIZA. It was the first NLP, natural language processing, program that tried to simulate a conversation. Of course, simulating talk in 66 versus the chats we have with AI today is worlds apart. It shows you the computing power difference.
What strikes me is how the application changed over time. You mentioned the 80s. AI then was more about automation, right?
Exactly. Mid-80s AI was mostly focused on automating repetitive, structured stuff. Think financial forecasting based on clear rules or basic diagnostics, doing things humans could do, but faster and consistently.
But the big shift, the one we're feeling now, happened much more recently.
Oh yeah, the 2020s, that's when we moved from just automation to augmentation, powered by generative AI. Instead of just calculating or following rules, today's AI uses learning techniques that are more human-like. It draws on massive amounts of data to create totally new things, new text, new code, new ideas. It's generating, not just executing.
And that kind of shift always bumps up against skepticism, doesn't it? I remember the sources mentioning calculators back in the 60s. People were worried kids wouldn't learn math.
Exactly. Same fears, job loss, de-skilling. But what happened? The calculator became an essential tool. It augmented our ability to do more complex math. It didn't stop us doing math.
And cloud computing in the 2000s. Similar story.
Same pattern. Huge worries about data security, who owns the data, jobs disappearing. But now, The cloud is just there. It's a backbone we trust for almost everything. These examples, they're like guideposts. They show that the initial fear often gives way pretty quickly to acceptance, even dependence. PMs who see that pattern, they're already thinking ahead. Hashtag defining the AI ecosystem, the conceptual hierarchy.
Okay, so to really use this tech, project managers need to cut through the jargon. AI, ML, DL, GenAI, LLM, GPT. It sounds like alphabet soup. But there's a logic to it, right? A kind of hierarchy. Understanding where something like ChatGPT fits is key.
Definitely. Let's build that hierarchy. At the very top, the biggest umbrella is artificial intelligence, AI. Think of AI as the broad field, the whole idea of building machines that can perform tasks requiring human-like intelligence learning, problem-solving, decision-making, pattern recognition.
And right here, the sources stress something critical about decision-making, don't they?
Absolutely crucial. AI can give you options, analyze data, make predictions, but the human makes the final call. The machine doesn't handle ethics or empathy or accountability or those really complex, nuanced judgments you need in a project. AI supports the human leader. It doesn't replace their responsibility.
Got it. So nested within AI is?
Machine learning, ML. This is a subset of AI. ML uses algorithms, things like linear regression you might remember from stats class, that learn from data to make decisions or predictions about data. The key here is usually structured data, things neatly organized in tables or spreadsheets. ML is really good at finding patterns and predicting things based on that structure. Think, predicting task duration based on past similar tasks.
Okay, AI, then ML. What's next level down?
Deep learning, DL. Now, DL is a subset of ML, but it's the engine driving a lot of the really exciting modern stuff like GenAI. DL uses these complex, multi-layered structures called neural networks, which are loosely inspired by the human brain.
And why is DL so important for project managers?
Because DL excels at making sense of unstructured data. And think about a PM's day, emails, chat messages, meeting transcripts, user feedback, even images or videos. That's all unstructured. DL's ability to find patterns, sentiment, and meaning in that messy real-world data is what makes tools like ChatGPT possible and so useful in a project context.
Okay, so DL unlocks unstructured data, and that powers
It's generative AI,
Yeah.
GenAI. This is where the creation happens. GenAI uses those DL and sometimes ML models not just to analyze, but to generate brand new original content. This could be writing text, drafting emails, generating code snippets, creating images, even synthesizing realistic data for testing scenarios. This is the augmentation part. It's actively producing useful stuff.
Makes sense. And within GenAI, we get more specific tools.
Right. We narrow down to language focus with large language models, LLMs. These are AI models, often built using deep learning, that are trained on absolutely massive amounts of text data. Their whole purpose is to understand and generate human language reading, summarizing, translating, answering questions in a coherent way. Context is king for LLMs.
And GPT is a type of LLM.
Exactly. Generative pre-trained transformers, GPTs, are a specific architecture or type of LLM. They use a powerful neural network design called a transformer, which is really good at handling dependencies in text, understanding how words relate to each other, even across long sentences or paragraphs. The pre-trained part just means they've already learned language patterns from that huge data set before being fine-tuned for specific tasks.
Okay, so AI, MLDL, GenAI, LLM, GPT, and finally, ChatGPT is.
ChatGPT is essentially a specific instance or application of the GPT model architecture. It's been specifically fine-tuned by OpenAI for conversation, for dialogue. That's why it feels so natural to talk to. It's designed precisely for that back-and-forth interaction, like having a conversation with a very knowledgeable assistant. #tag, comparing traditional AI versus generative AI.
Okay, that hierarchy really clarifies things. It highlights the big difference between the older AI, the ML-based stuff, and this new wave of Gen AI built on deep learning.
Yeah, the goals are different. Traditional AI, mostly ML, is about executing defined tasks based on patterns and structured data. Predict this, classify that. Think fraud detection systems, customer segmentation based on purchase history, basic forecasting. Its strength is efficiency and reliability for tasks where the input data is clean and the goal is predictable.
But the weakness there is the data itself, right? It needs to be clean.
Absolutely. Traditional ML is very sensitive to noisy or inconsistent data. Garbage in, garbage out, as they say. If your historical data is flawed or incomplete, the predictions will be unreliable.
Whereas Gen AI, powered by DL,
Gen AI's mission is different. It's about generating new things or understanding complex relationships, often using that messy, unstructured data we talked about. Think chatbots that understand nuance, tools that draft creative content, systems that analyze complex project reports for hidden risks. Its strength is adaptability, handling complexity, and performing creative or augmentative tasks.
But there's a trade-off there too, isn't there? It's not all magic.
Definitely not. Gene AI models, especially the big ones, need enormous amounts of data to train initially. They're incredibly computationally expensive to run. And sometimes they act like a black box. Because the neural networks are so complex, it can be hard to understand exactly why the AI generated a specific response or recommendation. That lack of transparency is a real challenge for PMs who need accountable decision-making.
So it's a shift from predictable efficiency with clean data to creative augmentation with messy data, but with added complexity and maybe less transparency.
That's a good way to sum it up, yeah.
All right, let's zero in on the tool that really pushed all this into the mainstream, ChatGPT. Its launch, end of November 2022, was, well, it felt like an explosion.
It really did. It wasn't just a tech launch, it was a cultural moment. The adoption rate was staggering. ChatGPT hit 1 million users in just 5 days. Think about that compared to other platforms. Instagram took months, Spotify took months, Facebook took almost a year to get to that same number. It just shows how immediately useful, or at least fascinating, people found it.
And the tech behind it. The scale is hard to wrap your head around. The sources mention over 175 billion parameters. What does that practically mean for a user for a PM?
Yeah, 175 billion. It's a number so big it almost loses meaning. But think of parameters as the internal knobs or variables the model uses to connect words and concepts. Having that many parameters is like giving the AI an incredibly detailed, nuanced understanding of language and context. It's like having billions of tiny puzzle pieces. The more you have, the clearer and more complex the picture you can make.
So more parameters means it understands context better. It can hold a longer conversation.
Exactly. That massive number of parameters gives it a huge context window. It can remember what you talked about pages ago in the chat, maintain coherence, understand subtle shifts in meaning. Older chatbots would lose the thread after just a couple of exchanges. ChatGPT's scale allows it to engage in really complex, lengthy discussions, like hashing out project details, without forgetting the initial goal.
And the output feels so human. It writes in a way that sounds natural. How does it do that?
That comes from its training. It learned from literally billions of examples of text from the internet. Books, articles, all sorts of sources. That massive exposure allows it to grasp grammar, style, context, and relevance incredibly well. It's not just spitting back information, it's synthesizing it in a human-readable way.
Yeah.
It really is the closest thing to an immensely learned digital robot assistant, as the sources put it.
And this didn't just appear out of thin air. There were key people, key organizations involved.
Right. OpenAI is the company, obviously. People like Mira Murati, the CTO, were crucial in leading the development, not just for ChatGPT, but also tools like DALL-E for image generation. Sam Altman, the CEO at the time, navigated that explosive launch period.
And the big player financially, Microsoft.
Huge player. Their investment, reportedly around $10 billion as of early 2024, is massive. And that partnership, under Satya Nadella's leadership at Microsoft, is why we're seeing this tech woven into everything. It's in Bing Search, it's in Copilot for Microsoft 365, it's in Azure Cloud Services. It's becoming part of the standard corporate toolkit very, very quickly. #, access and advantages for PMs.
One reason it's spreading so fast in business must be how easy it is to access, right?
Absolutely. That's a major factor. ChatGPT is essentially prepackaged. There's no complicated software install. For a project manager, you just open a web browser, go to chatgpt.com, and you're in. That low barrier to entry is key.
Okay, but there's the free version and the paid version. For a PM using this professionally, is the paid subscription, like ChatGPT Plus, worth it? It's about $20 a month.
For serious professional use, yeah, I'd say the paid tier offers some significant advantages. You get general access even when demand is high, faster responses, priority access to the newest models.
Which means better quality output, usually.
Generally, yes. But more importantly for PMs, the paid tier unlocks advanced features. Things like the GPT store, which has specialized plugins, and crucially, the advanced data analysis feature.
Okay, tell me more about that advanced data analysis. What can a PM actually do with that?
This is really powerful. It lets you upload files, spreadsheets with project data, logs, reports, whatever. Then you can ask ChatGPT to actually write and run code, like Python, to analyze that data on the fly. It can create charts, graphs, perform statistical analysis, identify trends, stuff that used to require separate tools or a data analyst.
So instant data visualization and analysis right within the chat.
Pretty much, yeah. Plus, the paid tier usually includes access to things like DALL-E for image generation and often a connection to real-time web browsing via Bing. That's crucial if your project depends on up-to-the-minute market info or, say, recent regulatory changes.
So bringing it all together, this is the core PMAI advantage we're talking about, using ChatGPT as this digital assistant.
Exactly. It's like having that immensely learned digital robot assistant. When used right, it helps PMs hit peak productivity. Think about automating the first draft of project documents, creating templates instantly, getting help analyzing complex data sets for risks you might have missed, identifying non-obvious correlations, even getting suggestions for decision-making based on historical patterns.
But, and this feels important to repeat, the human is still in charge.
Always. This is the crucial caveat. The output needs rigorous human review. Always. The goal is augmentation, freeing up the project manager from routine tasks so they can focus on the strategic thinking, the ethical considerations, the complex problem solving, the people leadership, the stuff that really requires human judgment and accountability. It doesn't replace the PM.
Okay, so to see how AI really slots in, let's go back to the basics of project management itself. The PMI definition talks about applying knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to meet requirements, right? And a project is temporary, aiming for a unique result.
That's the core. And projects follow those standard process groups: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. What Gene AI does, essentially, is thread through all of these phases. It changes the texture of the work in each one.
All right, let's walk through them. Starting with initiating, defining, and authorizing the project. How does AI help there?
Well, initiating is all about understanding the why and getting stakeholders aligned. AI can be a massive help with stakeholder collaboration. Imagine feeding it transcripts from early meetings, or a bunch of emails discussing the project idea. The AI can synthesize all that unstructured information.
How? What does it produce?
It can generate a summary of shared objectives, identify potential conflicts or disagreements between different stakeholders based on their language, or even flag requirements mentioned that seem contradictory. It helps clarify the fuzzy front end.
So less time spent manually decoding hundreds of messages just to figure out what everyone wants.
Exactly. And for innovation management, which often happens early on, it can analyze historical data from past projects, successes, failures, competitor actions. A PM could prompt it. Based on our last 5 similar projects, suggest 3 alternative approaches to this problem, with potential risks for each. It helps generate evidence-based options, not just brainstorming.
Okay, that's initiating. Now, planning. This feels like a sweet spot for AI.
Huge sweet spot. Planning is where Gen AI can really help a PM move from being reactive to being proactive. Take requirements collection. Instead of manually compiling lists from dozens of documents, AI can synthesize them into a first draft requirements matrix. That alone could save, I don't know, maybe 80% of the initial documentation time.
Wow. And drafting the actual plan, like the WBS?
Yes, it can generate an initial work breakdown structure by looking at data from similar past projects in the organization. It knows what typical tasks, phases, and deliverables look like. The PM isn't starting from a blank page. They're starting with a detailed data-informed draft that they just need to review, tweak, and validate.
What about risk? Planning involves a lot of risk forecasting.
This is where pattern recognition shines. AI can analyze vast amounts of historical project data schedules, budgets, risk logs, team compositions, vendor performance. It might spot subtle correlations a human would miss, like maybe every project that used vendor X and involved integration with system Y ran 20% over budget. It flags that proactively.
So it makes risk registers much more specific and data-driven, not just generic lists.
Precisely. It allows for more realistic scheduling, better resource allocation, because the plan is based on actual historical risk exposure, not just gut feel.
Moving on to executing, doing the actual work. How does AI fit in here? It's not managing the team, presumably?
I'm not managing people,
Yeah.
but it acts as a powerful support tool for the team and the PM. It can assist with creating content drafting reports, generating code snippets, maybe even initial drafts of communication materials. It helps enhance team training by generating customized learning modules. If the project uses a new software, AI could create quick guides tailored to different roles.
And it takes over some of the admin burden.
A lot of it. Generating meeting summaries automatically from transcripts, helping with scheduling logistics, keeping shared knowledge bases up to date. By handling that administrative overhead, it frees up the project leader to focus on leadership, unblocking issues, motivating the team, making strategic adjustments, high-value stuff.
Okay, then monitoring and controlling, keeping things on track.
This is right in AI's wheelhouse. Real-time reporting becomes much easier. AI can generate dynamic dashboards tracking progress against baselines across multiple KPIs, constantly updated. It performs continuous risk modeling. As new data comes in, say, a task slipping the AI can recalculate the potential impact on the overall schedule or budget immediately.
And you mentioned feedback loops and a dynamic FAQ.
Yes, it can analyze incoming communications, emails, chat, tickets to identify emerging issues or common questions. And it can act as a dynamic knowledge base, or FAQ. A team member asks, what was the decision on requirement 7.2 again? Instead of interrupting the PM, they ask the AI, which pulls the relevant info from project docs instantly. It ensures everyone has the same correct information.
Consistency, right. And finally, closing the project, wrapping things up.
AI helps streamline that crucial but often rushed phase. It can automatically generate draft versions of final summary reports, comparing outcomes against the initial objectives and KPIs. And critically, it can create really detailed change logs by analyzing project communications and document versions. It documents what actually changed during the project lifecycle. That's gold for organizational learning, for improving future estimates. #tag AI support for PMBOK principles.
It's amazing how it touches every phase, and it sounds like this maps directly onto the core principles in the PMBOK guide, the foundations of good project management.
It really does. These AI applications aren't just random features. They directly support those fundamental PMBOK principles.
Okay, let's connect a few. Take stewardship, being responsible, caring for the project. That's big in initiating.
Right. Stewardship involves engaging stakeholders effectively. AI supports this by, say, automating the initial outreach emails, making them personalized, or generating targeted surveys to gather initial requirements efficiently. It helps the PM cast a wide, engaged net right from the start.
What about systems thinking in the planning phase? Seeing the whole picture.
Systems thinking is crucial for understanding interconnectedness. AI helps here by simulating what-if scenarios. For example, what happens to the overall timeline and budget if our key designer is out sick for a week? The AI can model those ripple effects across the system, giving the PM a holistic view that's hard to grasp manually. That helps optimize the whole system, not just one part.
That also sounds like it supports the risk principle, too.
Absolutely. That simulation is risk analysis. And analyzing past data to flag potential issues proactively is core to managing risk effectively.
During executing, the principle of quality is key. Consistency, standards.
AI supports quality by generating and helping maintain consistent documentation templates. Using AI to draft ensures that all requirements, docs, test plans, status reports follow the same format and level of detail. It builds quality into the process artifacts. And maybe for the team principal, it acts as that neutral, consistent interface for routine task updates or reminders, helping keep everyone aligned without adding to the PM's direct workload.
For monitoring and controlling, projects deal with complexity. Things are always changing, interconnected.
Exactly. AI helps manage that complexity by being that adaptive knowledge base we talked about. It constantly analyzes feedback, updates information, answers questions contextually. It helps the project adapt. This also ties into adaptability and resilience. When unexpected changes hit, the AI can quickly help replan, reprioritize tasks, and communicate updates, making the project more resilient.
And in closing, the principle of change. Learning from what happened.
AI is huge here. By automating those detailed closing reports, and especially the change logs, it ensures the organization actually learns. It captures what changed, why it changed, if documented, and what the impact was. That turns fuzzy lessons learned sessions into concrete, actionable data for improving future projects. That's strategic change management.
Okay, using off-the-shelf ChatGPT is powerful, but for really deep integration for using sensitive company data, organizations probably need more, right? They need AI tailored to them.
That's exactly right. The generic models are great starting points, but for true strategic advantage, you need customization. There are basically 3 levels of doing this. The most common approach, and often the most practical, is called fine-tuning.
Fine-tuning. What does that actually involve? Break it down for us.
Think of it like this. You start with a massive general-purpose model like GPT-4. That's your pre-trained base, trained on the whole internet. It knows language, it knows concepts. Then you take that smart base model and you train it a little bit more, using a smaller data set of your own company's specific documents, your past project plans, your internal knowledge base, your specific terminology, your reporting formats.
Ah, so you're teaching the generalist model your company's specific dialect and knowledge.
Precisely. It's a form of transfer learning. The model keeps all its general knowledge, but becomes an expert in your specific context. It learns your jargon, your processes, how you talk about projects. It makes the outputs much more relevant and useful for your PMs.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the next level up from fine-tuning?
That would be customized modeling. This is a bit deeper. It might involve taking an existing model architecture, maybe not even a language model, and tweaking its actual structure, the layers, the connections, or adjusting its core learning parameters, hyperparameters, to make it perform better on a very specific, perhaps unique task within your organization. This is less about teaching it new content and more about changing how it fundamentally processes information for a niche application.
More structural changes, less just adding specific knowledge. And the third way?
The most intensive approach. Model training from scratch. This means you don't use a pre-trained base model at all. You design and build your own AI model from the ground up, using only your own data.
That sounds like a massive undertaking.
It is. It requires huge amounts of curated data, significant computing power, and specialized data science expertise. It's costly and time-consuming, but it gives you maximum control. You control the architecture, the training data, the behavior, and you can build in ethical guardrails right from the start. For highly sensitive applications or completely novel problems, it might be necessary.
So the choice really depends on the need. Speed and cost versus total control.
Exactly. Fine-tuning is faster, cheaper, leverages existing power, great for augmenting workflows. Training from scratch offers ultimate control and customization, but needs major investment. Customized modeling sits somewhere in between. PMs involved in AI initiatives need to understand these options, tag the human element, and ethical risks.
Whichever path an organization takes, this tech is causing ripples. Big ones. For the workforce, we can't just drop AI in and expect everyone to adapt instantly.
No, definitely not. The need for adaptation is huge and urgent. The sources pointed to an IBM estimate, something like 40% of the workforce needing to reskill in the next 3 years, just because of AI and automation.
40%. That's enormous. What does that mean specifically for project managers? What skills do they need?
They need to evolve.
Yeah.
They can't just be organizers and communicators anymore. They need to become more like hybrid leaders. Strong competencies in data analysis are becoming non-negotiable. Understanding how to interpret AI outputs, how to question the data, how to use the insights for better decisions, that's critical. They're managing data flow almost as much as people flow now.
But with this new power tool comes new risks, right? Especially ethical ones. You can't just let the AI run wild.
Absolutely not. Implementing AI without clear goals, without constant monitoring, it's just wasted effort, potentially dangerous effort. And the biggest ethical landmine is bias risk.
Because the AI learns from historical data and history, well, it isn't always fair.
Exactly. AI models learn patterns from the data they're trained on. If that data reflects past societal biases, gender bias, racial bias, geographical bias, whatever, the AI will learn those biases too, and it can even amplify them.
How might that play out in project management?
Imagine an AI tool that helps with team formation or task assignment. If historical data, maybe unintentionally, shows that certain groups were less successful on past projects, perhaps due to poor management or lack of opportunity, not competence, the AI might learn to subconsciously prefer other groups. It could lead to unfair recommendations, discrimination in who gets assigned to challenging tasks or leadership roles, simply because the algorithm is perpetuating historical inequities baked into the data.
And the sources mention this being a particular risk for certain regions.
Yes, specifically highlighting potential negative social impacts in low and middle income countries, where historical data might be particularly skewed, or where algorithmic bias could exacerbate existing inequalities in resource allocation or team roles. The PM using these tools must be vigilant, audit the inputs, question the outputs, look for these biases.
It all comes back to the human then. The goal isn't replacement, it's partnership.
Collaboration. That's the word. We need to shift the conversation away from what will AI do to us and focus on what can we achieve with AI. It's about augmenting human intelligence, not making humans obsolete.
And this idea of collaboration is leading to new ways of thinking about work.
Yeah, some interesting concepts are emerging. One is the idea of superminds. This isn't just about AI. It's about structuring teams of people, deliberately combining diverse skills, perspectives, knowledge per family, so the group itself functions more intelligently than any single individual within it could.
The whole is greater than the sum of its parts, amplified.
Kind of, yeah. And then there's hyperconnectivity. This takes the superminds concept and fuses it with technology. Imagine those diverse, intelligent human teams, seamlessly connected and augmented by AI tools, by vast networks of information like the internet. It's about combining the best of human judgment, creativity, and ethical reasoning with the speed and processing power of machines. That's perhaps the ultimate vision for the future project environment. #outro.
Wow, we have covered a lot of ground today, from tracing AI's long history way back to that mechanical brain in 1932.
Yeah, all the way up to this major shift we're seeing now, from simple automation to genuine augmentation using generative AI.
We really dug into ChatGPT's structure, those 175 billion parameters, what that means, how it enables it to be this incredibly knowledgeable digital assistant that can draft, analyze, even code.
And crucially, for everyone listening who manages projects, we mapped out how these tools can actively support literally every phase of the project lifecycle.
Right, from sorting out stakeholder needs and initiating, through detailed planning and risk analysis.
Supporting execution, real-time monitoring, and even making project closing and organizational learning much more effective with things like automated change logs.
So the big takeaway, the real value of PMAI, it seems to be about shifting from reacting to anticipating.
I think that's it, exactly. Using AI's predictive power to anticipate risks, conflicts, resource needs before they become critical problems. It supplements the PM's competence, freeing them up for the uniquely human parts of the job strategy, ethics, leadership.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with a final thought to chew on. It's about trust and decision-making in this AI-augmented world. Gene AI can give you incredibly detailed scenario plans, sophisticated risk analyses, but you, the human, still have to decide how much to trust it, right?
That's the crux of it. When you're looking at an AI recommendation, you have to constantly weigh two things. What's the likelihood this prediction is actually correct? And maybe more importantly, what's the cost? What's the impact if this prediction turns out to be critically wrong?
So the risk analysis has to include analyzing your own trust in the AI itself.
Precisely. How much human skepticism, how much critical judgment do you need to apply to balance the powerful new knowledge coming from the machine against the potential cost of error? That balancing act. That's the new essential skill for every project manager navigating the age of PMAI. Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take complex research, stacks of it really, and turn it into knowledge you can actually use.
That's the goal.
And today, we're tackling something huge. A really critical mission, a deep dive into how artificial intelligence, specifically things like machine learning, deep learning, and now generative AI, how they're fundamentally changing project management.
Yeah, reshaping the whole landscape. And this isn't just theory, right? We're taking the sources you, the listener, shared and synthesizing them into a practical guide. We're moving past the buzzwords.
Yeah.
We're looking at the tech architecture, the specific tools available now in 2024, and maybe most importantly,
Prompt engineering.
Exactly. That essential skill every PM needs now.
It's incredible. And just to frame how big this is, think about this quote from Microsoft CEO, Satya Nadella.
Oh, yeah.
He compared their Copilot AI assistant to the personal computer.
Wow. Okay, that's a statement.
Isn't it? Comparing it to the PC, the device that completely redefined work over, 40 years ago? That signals a massive shift.
A generational shift, really. It changes how we manage complexity, how we even interact with the tech.
Definitely how we run projects.
It's a totally different user experience. We're shifting from, clicking through menus and manually doing admin tasks to having this integrated AI assistant.
Yeah.
A writing partner, almost.
That can handle pretty complex multi-step stuff just using natural language.
Right, and that level of smart, personalized automation, it's fast becoming the baseline expectation for professionals.
Okay, so let's really unpack this. We hear AI thrown around constantly, but our sources dig deep into machine learning, ML. For our listener, maybe prepping for a big project review, what is ML in this context? How does it work with project data?
Right, good question. So ML is a specific scientific field within AI. It's all about creating algorithms, statistical models that are designed to do specific project-related tasks. Think risk calculation, optimizing schedules, that kind of thing.
And the core idea is pattern recognition.
Exactly. Identifying really intricate trends in huge amounts of project data, historical budgets, team performance over time, resource availability, even stakeholder feedback from years back.
And the key thing, the sources really stress this, is that it figures this out without someone having to code every single rule explicitly.
Precisely. It learns the rules itself from the data. That learning process is what makes it so powerful for PM.
unlike, say, traditional software with fixed if-then rules.
Right. ML develops its own predictive models. Now, here's a critical distinction every PM needs to grasp.
Okay.
ML is mostly about correlations, finding relationships between different data points.
Relationships.
Not necessarily causation, not the underlying reason why those relationships exist.
Okay. Can you give a concrete example of that?
Yeah.
Correlation versus causation in a project.
Sure. Let's say you have an ML model, and it's analyzed hundreds of past software projects in your company.
Okay.
It might find a strong correlation. Maybe projects with exactly 6 people on the team using 2-week sprints are delayed 80% of the time.
Right. So the model sees that pattern.
And it will accurately forecast a delay for any new project with those same attributes. That's the prediction, based purely on the correlation it found.
The human manager, they understand the why,
Yeah.
the causation.
Exactly. The ML model doesn't know why those teams get delayed. The manager might know the causal reason. Like maybe in that company, a 6-person team often means 2 key members report to different VPs who always fight over features.
The office politics, communication breakdown, rework.
Precisely. The algorithm just sees 6 people delay. It doesn't get the context. That's why ML is brilliant for forecasting and spotting patterns. But you absolutely need human oversight for the real problem solving, for understanding the why.
That distinction really highlights this data advantage ML offers. Humans just can't process that much information.
That's the core benefit. ML handles project data at a scale and speed no person, no team even, could possibly match.
Picking out subtle things we'd miss.
Totally. Like maybe delays increase not just with team size, but when team size changes mid-project. Tiny nuances like that. It extracts intelligence from all this data.
Making projects more efficient, data-driven,
Yeah.
hopefully more successful.
If interpreted correctly, yes. The 3 basic elements are learning from the data, building a model, and then making predictions.
And often using large language models, LLMs like ChatGPT.
Yeah, LLMs are often under the hood. They're these huge text-based models trained on just massive amounts of human language.
To produce text that sounds, well, human.
Right. They're the engine behind tools like ChatGPT.
Okay, now let's layer in deep learning, DL, often mentioned with generative AI. How does DL fit with ML?
So deep learning is a subset of ML. A more complex, specialized branch, you could say.
Okay.
It's often used in Gen AI because it uses these multi-layered neural networks. Think of them as incredibly dense webs of calculations that adjust themselves.
To find even more complex patterns.
Exactly, especially in really large data sets. And the key differentiator for a PM
Is unstructured data.
You got it. Traditional ML loves structured data spreadsheets, databases. DL excels with unstructured stuff. Emails, meeting transcripts, voice notes, chat logs, images.
Which lets us use natural language, text, or voice to manage projects.
That's the game changer right there. That's the immediate benefit we're seeing.
So what are some tangible impacts of DL on a project manager's day-to-day?
Well, one really obvious one is modern chatbots. DL lets them understand not just the words, but the context and even the sentiment.
Sentiment, like, is this stakeholder angry or just asking a question?
Exactly. Is the request urgent? Frustrated? This allows for timely, instant responses, freeing up your team from answering the same basic questions over and over.
So they can focus on higher-level stuff.
Right. Strategic thinking, complex problem solving. Another big one is real-time monitoring.
Kind of like project surveillance, but in a good way.
Yeah, you could put it that way. DL systems can constantly sift through project data streams, timelines, budgets, resource usage,
And flag problems early.
instantly alert managers to discrepancies, budget overruns, schedule slips before they become major issues, and it also transforms knowledge management.
How so?
Think of DL-powered chatbots becoming these instantly accessible knowledge bases. Got a question about best practices for a specific phase? Need lessons learned from a similar project 5 years ago?
The chatbot can find it.
Instantly. 247 access to the organization's collective project wisdom.
Before we get into the specific PM tools, maybe let's just briefly touch on ML's wider applications. It helps grasp the sheer power we're talking about.
Good idea. I mean, the reach of ML is just staggering. It's everywhere. Image recognition on your phone, complex fraud detection systems.
Voice assistants, recommendation engines.
Yeah, those engines drive trillions in spending. And then you have autonomous vehicles, which rely heavily on ML. And in medicine,
The big one.
huge. Assisting doctors interpret complex scans for early cancer detection, for example, and drastically speeding up drug discovery by predicting how different compounds might interact.
Okay, so if we take that immense power and focus it back onto the project manager's desk,
Mm-hmm.
what are the top, say, 3 specific ML applications integrated into PM platforms today?
Right. First, I'd say risk analysis. ML can look at past projects with similar characteristics and predict the probability of specific risks cropping up again. Resource shortages, scope creep, vendor delays.
Based on historical patterns.
Exactly. Second, resource allocation. Optimizing who goes where, what equipment is needed when. It analyzes past performance, current availability.
And suggests the most efficient mix.
Yeah, for the next phase or the whole project. And third, project forecasting. This is where ML really shines.
Predicting delivery dates, delays, budget outcomes.
With a level of accuracy that human estimation often struggles with, because, crucially, it removes a lot of the inherent human bias from the judgment.
Okay, so that science foundation leads us straight to the tools, the practical stuff. For our listener thinking about 2024 and beyond, what are the key generative AI tools PMs should really be getting familiar with?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a big shift. It's moving towards tools that are deeply integrated into existing workflows, plus some really powerful specialized creative tools.
And the big integrator seems to be Microsoft 365 Copilot.
Absolutely, that's the powerhouse Nadell was talking about. It's essentially an AI writing assistant built right into the Microsoft 365 suite: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, Outlook.
And running on generative models like ChatGPT behind the scenes.
Right. And its value for a PM is massive because it lives where they already work.
So what can it do specifically for a project?
Oh, a ton. It can summarize a 3-hour Teams meeting recording in like a minute.
Seriously, pulling out decisions and action items.
Automatically. It can whip up a professional PowerPoint deck from a dense Word doc or even just a simple outline you give it. Generate initial drafts of project plans. Create detailed risk assessments by referencing past project documents in SharePoint.
Automate status reports.
Yep. And tailor the tone and detail level depending on who it's for, executives versus the internal team. It's pretty remarkable.
So it's not just creating text in isolation, it's interacting with your whole information ecosystem.
It's like an orchestrator, yeah. Working within your existing workflow. Now, beyond that big integration, you still have the core generative models.
Like ChatGPT itself from OpenAI.
Still the gold standard for general purpose stuff.
Yeah.
Content creation, complex brainstorming, even getting help with basic coding or debugging snippets.
And for development teams.
GitHub Copilot is indispensable. It's like an AI pair programmer, suggesting lines or entire blocks of code as you type. Huge productivity boost for developers.
I'm really interested in the visual and video generation tools. Feels like a potential game changer for stakeholder communication.
Totally agree. Getting stakeholder buy-in often comes down to clarity and engagement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tools like Microsoft Designer or Midjourney let anyone, a PM, a team member, create really high-quality, unique images just using plain English prompts.
So instead of hunting for stock photos for half an hour,
You describe what you need, a visual metaphor for data migration complexity, and get a custom image in like 60 seconds for your presentation.
that's powerful. And the video side takes it even further.
It really does.
Yeah.
Tools like Synthesia, VEE, Pictory, they can take text.
Like a project summary or a risk report.
Exactly. A dense status update, a requirements doc, and turn it into an engaging video, sometimes even with AI avatars speaking the text.
That sounds incredibly useful for communicating complex stuff to, say, executives who prefer visual summaries.
Huge value there. It just elevates the whole standard of project communication, both internal and external.
Okay, shifting gears slightly to productivity and design automation tools, specifically aimed at PM workflows.
Yeah, there are some key players. If you're using ClickUp AI is built in.
What does it do there?
Helps format content perfectly, acts as a virtual assistant for tasks, can even try to predict project data points, generate insights from ongoing work.
Similar idea with Notion AI.
Right. Assist with content, organization, automating workflows within that Notion environment. And for projects that involve physical design,
Engineering, construction.
manufacturing, product development, Autodesk's generative design is transformative. You feed the AI constraints, materials, costs, structural needs.
And it suggests designs.
It generates dozens, sometimes hundreds, of viable design alternatives that meet those constraints, things humans might never have thought of.
Now, none of this really works seamlessly without the plumbing underneath, right? The automation layer. Not Gen AI, but critical.
Absolutely critical. That's where Zapier comes in. It's the glue.
Connecting all these different apps.
Exactly. It automates those repetitive PM tasks. syncing data between your project tool and your calendar, sending notifications, updating status across platforms. Gen AI creates the content. Zapier makes sure it moves where it needs to go.
Okay, so we've got the science, we've got the tools, but the output is only as good as the input, right?
Yeah, that's the crux of it.
Which brings us to the modern PM's secret weapon, prompt engineering. But before we build the perfect prompt, we need to understand what's actually happening under the hood. What goes on when you hit enter?
Right, let's demystify it a bit. It's not magic. When you type your prompt, the very first thing is tokenization.
Tokenization, breaking it down.
Exactly. The model doesn't read whole words like we do. It chops the input into smaller pieces called tokens. Think of them like little digital Lego bricks.
And the sources gave some useful metrics. One token is roughly 4 English characters, or about 3/4 of a word.
Yeah, roughly. And a typical paragraph might be around 100 tokens.
And the example they used was, where we're going, we don't need roads. It was like 6 words.
Well, it's actually 8 tokens, because the contractions we're and don't get split. We and are, do, and ent.
Okay, so it processes the root and the contraction separately.
Right, which helps it understand the nuances. Okay, so once it's tokenized,
How does the computer actually understand these tokens? They're just pieces of text.
that's input embedding. The computer only speaks numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So each token gets converted into a long string of numbers, a numerical vector. Imagine each token getting a unique address in a huge, multidimensional library of meaning.
Okay, a vector. And similar meanings are closer together in this space?
Generally, yes, that's the idea. But if they're just numbers floating around, how does it know the order? Dog bites man versus man bites dog.
Good point. Sequence matters.
That's where positional encoding comes in. It's like adding a little tag to each vector that says, this was the first word, this was the second, and so on. It preserves the order, the grammar.
Got it. And then the powerhouse, the T in GPT, the transformer network.
Right. This is where the real contextual understanding happens. It uses a clever mechanism involving 3 concepts: query, key, and value.
Query, key, value. Sounds complex.
Think of it like this. For every word it processes, the query, it looks at all the other words in the sentence, the keys, and calculates how relevant each of them is to understanding the current word, the value.
So it's constantly checking relationships between all the words.
Simultaneously, it's not just looking left to right. It builds a map of how all the pieces relate to each other, simulating that deep contextual understanding.
I used to picture just finding the closest word vector to predict the next one.
Common misconception. It's more sophisticated. Meaning isn't just about physical closeness in that vector space, it's about the direction of the vectors.
Direction.
Yeah. Think of it like related concepts pointing in similar directions in that multidimensional space. Generating the next word is about predicting a vector direction that logically follows the preceding context.
Okay, understanding that complexity really drives home why structured input is so important. You can't just throw vague requests at it for professional results.
Absolutely not. You need a framework. And the sources strongly recommend one called RACFT.
RACFT. Role, ask, context, format, tone.
Exactly. Clear, basic, efficient, and really powerful. Mastering this is, I think, the core prompt engineering skill for PMs today.
So let's break RACFT down. How does a PM use each part, starting with role?
Role defines the persona you want the AI to adopt. You tell it, act as a senior IT project manager.
Why is that important?
It instantly primes the AI with a baseline of knowledge, vocabulary, priorities common to that role. Instead of a generic response, it knows to think about things like risk, resources, stakeholders.
Got it. Next, ask.
The ask is the specific action verb. Draft a statement of work. Summarize these meeting notes. Create a risk register. Clear, direct command.
Then context, the extra details.
Crucial. This is where you provide the specifics of your situation. Use connecting words like which or where. Draft a statement of work, which is for a mobile app deployment where the team uses agile methodology.
Tailoring it to the actual project.
Exactly. Then format. How you want the output presented. This is non-negotiable for professional use. In a plain text table, as a bulleted list, in the style of a formal memo, you have to specify.
Otherwise you get whatever it feels like giving you.
Pretty much. And finally, tone. The tone sets the mood or style. Using a professional tone in a persuasive manner with an empathetic approach matches the output to the audience.
Let's put it all together with that example prompt from the sources.
Right. The effective prompt was, I want you to act as a senior IT project manager. Draft a statement of work for a web app with quantifiable outcomes in a plain text table format using a personal tone.
See how specific that is, compared to just write an SOW.
Night and day difference in the quality and usefulness of the output.
And for PMs, juggling multiple related tasks, maybe drafting several emails, summary, an action plan, all related to the same issue. There's the bulk inquiry tip.
Oh yeah, this is a huge time saver. Instead of setting the role in context every single time.
You do it once up front.
Exactly. Start the chat with something like, I want you to act as a senior IT project manager for all my questions in this conversation. Ensure outputs are results focused and use a formal tone. Ready?
And the AI remembers that persona.
It retains that context for the whole session. Then you can just fire off the specific asks without repeating the setup. Much faster.
The sources also wisely stress the iterative method. Don't expect perfection on the first try, especially for complex documents.
Absolutely not. Treat the AI like a very fast, knowledgeable, but slightly naive junior assistant.
Okay.
Give it a clear, concise prompt with a limited scope. Get the first draft, then refine it. Okay, make section 2 more concise. Add a column for race EI. Change the tone to be more directive.
Back and forth.
It's a dialogue. That iterative process not only gets you better results, but it actually makes you a clearer communicator because you have to articulate exactly what needs changing.
Beyond the RACFT structure, PMs also have knobs to turn for the style of the output. Let's talk temperature settings.
Right. Temperature basically controls the AI's creativity or randomness.
No temperature means.
Low, like 0.2, means precise, predictable, deterministic output. It sticks very closely to the most probable words. Ideal for formal PM docs, contracts, scope statements, technical specs. Minimizes weirdness. And high temperature.
High, like 0.8 or even 1.0, makes it more creative, sometimes more surprising. Good for brainstorming.
Yeah.
Maybe generating project code names or marketing blurbs.
But potentially less relevant or accurate for core PM tasks.
Exactly. It might go off on tangents. So, knowing when to use low versus high temperature is key for document reliability.
And the output formats are really flexible too, right? Not just paragraphs.
Hugely versatile. You can ask for native formats like tables, lists, narrative text, dialogue scripts, and for technical folks,
Code.
SQL queries, JSON, HTML, XML, and while it might not directly create a Gantt chart image file,
You can get the data for it.
you can get it to output the data structured correctly for other tools, like generate the text in Mermaid syntax for a flowchart, or the task list formatted for import into project software that can make the Gantt chart.
Gotcha. Lastly, tone selection. Why is this more than just fluff for a PM?
Because communication isn't just about the information, it's about how it's received. Tone is part of the message.
The AI can adopt dozens of tones. You might need an analytical tone for a budget report, but an assertive or directive tone for clarifying roles and responsibilities.
Or something softer for bad news.
Exactly. Maybe collaborative or empathetic when discussing challenges with the team. Choosing the right tone ensures the message lands effectively, builds trust, and avoids misunderstandings. It's core to communication effectiveness.
Okay, if project management is famously, 90% communication?
Or more sometimes.
Then this section feels like where AI could deliver the biggest wins. How does something like ChatGPT really help with the day-to-day communication grind?
Well, let's start with a really basic but powerful infrastructure point. 24/7 global availability.
For distributed teams.
Absolutely essential today. The old 9 to 5 office hours, obsolete for global projects. You've got teams in Sydney, London, San Francisco.
Someone's always working, someone's always sleeping.
Right. So if the Sydney team hits a roadblock at their 10 a.m., the London manager is asleep. But ChatGPT is always available.
To answer questions, provide context, find relevant documents.
Exactly. It keeps the project moving around the clock, reduces bottlenecks waiting for one person, and frankly, relieves a lot of pressure on managers.
That continuous availability is huge. What about using AI for deeper insights within team communication?
Now we're getting into more sophisticated stuff. Sentiment analysis is a big one.
Analyzing team chats, emails.
Yeah, looking at the overall tone and language used in internal comms, Slack channels, maybe email threads.
To gauge team morale, identify friction.
Exactly. Spotting potential burnout, rising stress levels, or emerging conflicts before they blow up and impact the project. It's like an early warning system for team health.
That could be incredibly valuable. And it helps with the admin burden of meetings too, right?
Oh, massively. Automatically generating meeting summaries is almost table stakes now.
Not just a transcript, but actual summaries.
Key decisions highlighted, action items assigned with owners and deadlines, all pulled out automatically. Ensures everyone leaves or logs off on the same page.
No more, who is taking notes?
Hopefully not. And think about onboarding. New hires can query the AI about project history, key decisions, best practices.
Getting up to speed much faster.
Drastically reduces the time needed for them to become productive contributors. And even hiring using AI to do the initial scan of hundreds of resumes against very specific project skill requirements saves the PMO tons of time.
Let's spend a moment on that detailed use case from the sources, the communication management plan, that really illustrates the practical application.
Yeah, that was a great example. Let's set the scene again for the listener.
Okay.
You're the IT project manager, big server upgrade project. You've got teams collaborating across New York, London, and Trinidad and Tobago.
3 time zones, lots of coordination needed.
Definitely. Key dates: initial assessment done by Sep 1st. Testing phase starts Oct 15th. Go live is November 30th. Different people leading different phases, specified man hours.
Carol and Keithan on assessment, Alyssa in London on testing.
Right. And they use Slack for quick stuff, Zoom for formal meetings, a typical complex setup.
Exactly the kind of scenario a PM deals with constantly. So how do you use RACFT to get the AI to generate the communication plan?
You feed it all that context. Role, ITPM, ask. Draft communication management plan. Context. List the teams, locations, key dates, leaders, hours, tools. Format, tabular plan. Tone, formal.
And the output is pretty impressive.
It's incredibly useful. The AI generates a properly structured communication management plan memo. Formal tone, clear sections.
And the core is that table.
The heart of it is this table. Columns for activity like daily stand-ups, weekly sync, milestone reviews. Responsibility, who leads it, frequency, daily, weekly, as needed. The tool, Slack, Zoom, and this is key.
Time zone considerations.
Yes. This is where the AI synthesizes the location data. For asynchronous Slack updates, it might just say, post by 10 a.m. local time.
Right.
But for the synchronous weekly Zoom sync, it looks at NY, London, TT, and suggests alternating times, to be fair.
Clever. Like 1 week is morning for the Americas, afternoon for London.
Exactly. Weeks 1 and 3. 10 a.m. EST, good for NYTT, okay for London afternoon. Weeks 2 and 4. 2 p.m. GMT, good for London afternoon, okay for NYTT morning. That level of logistical thinking, generated instantly, prevents so much scheduling hassle.
And ensures people can actually attend. Plus, it can visualize it.
It can output the data needed for a visual summary, like a simple Gantt chart layout, showing assessment, Carol, Keithan, Manisip 3. Testing, Alyssa, starts October 15, go live number 2 or 30. Translates the plan into an easy-to-grasp timeline.
This goes way beyond just drafting messages. It's actively supporting stakeholder management, which is so much about relationships.
It is. Stakeholder management needs those core human skills. Active listening, conflict resolution, building trust, negotiation.
AI can't do the negotiation.
Absolutely not. But it can support the manager. It can analyze the stakeholder register, look at past interactions.
And suggest approaches.
Generate graphs of engagement strategies, influence interest grids, tailored communication plans, formal written for this group, informal check-in for that person. It preps the manager, freeing them up to focus on the actual human interaction.
Okay, the last piece of communication is sharing information itself. Especially critical now, with misinformation being such a problem.
It is. And the sources point out that the sheer volume of information we face changes how we process it. AI tools like ChatGPT have some built-in safeguards.
Fact-checking algorithms?
Some level of that, yes, though it's definitely not foolproof. But the process itself encourages a pause.
And that research from MIT, David Rand's work, is relevant here, about critical thinking dropping off.
Yeah, Rand showed people often believe news, true or false, if it just aligns with their existing views. And critical thinking plummets when we're distracted or scrolling quickly through feeds, mixing news with emotional stuff.
How does ChatGPT help there?
By forcing a moment of reflection. You generate something, you review it, you consider it before hitting share or incorporating it into a report. It inserts a friction point that can promote more critical evaluation compared to just instantly retweeting something.
Makes sense. On a very practical note, if a PM creates a really useful plan or summary using ChatGPT-4, how do they share that specific chat with a colleague securely?
Okay, yeah, ChatGPT-4 has a dedicated share link feature. You find the chat in your history, hover over it, click the share icon.
And it creates a link.
It creates a snapshot preview first, so you see what you're sharing. Then you choose if you want your name attached or share anonymously. Then you copy the unique link.
Okay, but there's a big security warning here, right?
2GE warning, absolutely critical. Once you share that link, anyone who gets it can view the conversation.
And potentially continue it, adding more info.
Yes, and here's the really important part. if the person you send it to adds that shared chat to their own chat history, even if you later delete your shared link, they still have access to that conversation thread from the point you shared it.
Wow. Okay, so permanence is a risk.
A major risk. You absolutely should not share links to chats containing sensitive, proprietary, or confidential project information unless you are 100% certain everyone with the link should have enduring access. Be extremely cautious.
So we've talked about the incredible power and utility here, but that power demands responsibility. We absolutely have to ground this conversation in safety and ethics.
This is the non-negotiable part for any professional using these tools. Yes, the platforms have safeguards, but the ultimate responsibility lies with the user. Always.
First up, information accuracy.
Right. AI models can be wrong. They can generate plausible-sounding but incorrect information, often called hallucinations.
So trust but verify.
Don't even trust that much for critical data. Always cross-reference anything important, budget numbers, compliance details, technical specs, contract clauses with reliable, independent sources. The AI is a drafting assistant, a summarizer, a brainstormer. It is not the final source of truth.
Okay, what about data and security, especially the difference between free and paid tools?
That's a key practical point. Generally, with paid commercial subscriptions, you often get more control over your data. Options to opt out of having your prompts and outputs used to train the model further.
And free versions?
Free versions often explicitly state that your inputs will be used for training. Regardless, strong encryption, secure authentication. These are vital, especially if you're discussing anything sensitive or proprietary. Read the privacy policy of any AI tool you use for work. Seriously.
The source is also flagged bias and sensitivity. AI learning from biased data.
It's a huge issue. AI models learn from the vast data sets they're trained on, and those data sets reflect historical human biases, societal inequalities, stereotypes, cultural blind spots.
So the AI can perpetuate those biases?
Or even amplify them. PMs need to be vigilant. Review AI outputs, especially for things like shortlisting candidates, recommending resource assignments, or even drafting communications to ensure they aren't inadvertently biased or insensitive. Constant critical review is essential.
And maintaining the human touch, transparency, and depersonalization.
Crucial. As a matter of good practice, maybe even policy, consider disclosing when significant portions of content, like reports or formal documents, were generated by AI.
Transparency.
Right. And more fundamentally, AI should augment, not replace, genuine human interaction, judgment, and emotional intelligence.
So don't use it to avoid difficult conversations.
Exactly. An AI can draft an empathetic email about a team member struggling, but only a human manager can provide real support, mentorship, or navigate complex interpersonal issues. Relying on AI for core human connection is a major ethical misstep.
Finally, the bigger picture stuff. Compliance and environmental impact.
Yeah, PMs often work in regulated industries, health, finance, legal. You must ensure AI use complies with all relevant regulations. Data privacy laws like GDPR, APTA, industry-specific rules. Failure here has serious consequences.
And the environmental cost?
It's significant. Training these massive AI models takes enormous computing power, which uses a lot of energy. Using them also consumes energy. It's an emerging ethical consideration for organizations and individuals adopting these technologies at scale. Something to be aware of. #outro.
Well, this has been quite the deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground from the science of machine learning and its focus on correlation
The predictive power.
to the practical tools like Copilot and ChatGPT that are changing the PM toolkit.
Right, the everyday applications.
Mastering prompt engineering with frameworks like RACFT, controlling the output,
Essential skills.
and applying it all to boost communication, collaboration, and efficiency, hopefully 247, while keeping the crucial safety and ethical considerations front and center.
It really feels like we've mapped out the landscape for the modern PM navigating this AI transformation. We've established AI isn't just hype, it's becoming fundamental. But maybe for our final thought, let's circle back to that core distinction we raised right at the beginning. One that really defines the future value of the human project manager.
You mean correlation versus causation?
Exactly. Machine learning, AI, in PM, it excels at prediction based on correlation. It tells us what is likely to happen. The delay, the cost overrun, the resource conflict.
Based on past data patterns.
Right. But it doesn't inherently understand causation. It doesn't know the complex web of why the political landscape, the specific team dynamics, the unexpected external event that doesn't fit past patterns.
Okay.
So the most critical, the highest value skill for a PM moving forward. It's not just generating the AI report faster.
It's interpreting it.
It's understanding why the AI made that prediction. It's knowing when to trust the data, and crucially, when to override the data-driven correlation with human judgment, critical thinking, and deep contextual knowledge.
The why.
The why. So the provocative thought for our listener is this. As we embrace AI for its incredible scale and efficiency, how do we ensure we don't accidentally sideline or devalue that uniquely human expertise in understanding causation? Getting that balance right determines whether AI remains a powerful tool or starts to feel like a replacement for core human insight.
That's a perfect and slightly unsettling thought to end on. Thank you for that incredible breakdown.
Yeah, my pleasure. Always fascinating stuff.
And thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are really taking a close look at generative AI. We're talking tools like ChatGPT and how they aren't just, tweaking things in project management, but fundamentally changing the whole landscape. We've got a stack of sources here covering everything from, well, the day-to-day grind like internal comms, all the way up to designing complex systems for, say, big infrastructure projects.
That's right. And the mission for you, our listener, is to get a really solid grasp on the specific ways these tools are being integrated into different methodologies. We're going to break down how AI works across the entire project lifecycle. We'll look at the traditional predictive models, the waterfall approach, and then contrast that with the faster, iterative world of agile and hybrid methods.
And this is where I think it gets really crucial. We absolutely need to spend time talking about the project manager's role now. I mean, if AI is handling the number crunching and the scheduling, what's left for humans? What are those irreplaceable skills? We've got to talk about human judgment, the big trade-offs, and honestly, some pretty serious risks like AI hallucination or misinformation creeping in. That stuff can totally derail a project.
Exactly. The goal here is a genuine shortcut for you. We want to distill the core knowledge, how AI actually boosts decision-making, where the limits are, what you need to know about governing these tools so that technical efficiency doesn't just, steamroll human oversight. So let's start with the most immediate impacts, the things affecting the daily routine first.
Yeah, let's face it, a huge chunk of project management is just managing communication, right?
Before we get into the really complex stuff like system architecture, how is Gen AI helping with the constant juggling act of internal comms and team coordination? Well, the biggest change we're seeing, and the sources really back this up, is integration. AI isn't just a separate chatbot anymore. It's getting embedded right inside the platforms people already use.
Like Slack, Microsoft Teams.
Exactly. Slack, Teams, even project management tools like Asana. The key here is what they call context-aware automation. The AI lives within your project channels. It can actually read the conversation history, look at shared documents.
Ah, okay. So if I'm in Slack, the ChatGPT integration isn't just sitting there waiting for a command. It's sort of processing the ongoing discussion.
Precisely. It can help you write better informed messages because it knows what was decided yesterday. It can automate routine things like check-in reminders or status updates. And crucially, it can answer common questions right there in the channel using the context it has. So if someone asks, hey, what was the final call on feature X? The AI can scan the recent messages and give a concise summary.
That's huge, especially for teams spread across different time zones, instead of waiting hours for someone to wake up and answer.
Right. The AI acts like a persistent team memory, available 24/7. And we see this extending to task management too. In Asana, for instance, the integration can automate responses to comments. Maybe even more useful, PMs can create pretty detailed tasks just using voice commands or a quick click. It saves all those little bits of time that really eat into a manager's day.
Okay, that sounds incredibly efficient, almost too efficient. If the AI is handling so much communication, drafting messages, setting the tone, aren't we running the risk of everything sounding the same, losing that, human touch or the specific vibe of a project team?
That's a really important point and definitely a key trade-off the sources discuss. The solution seems to be customization. While the AI generates the draft, the better tools are now focusing on giving users choices. You're not just stuck with one generic response.
So you can tweak it.
Yeah. You get options for style, formal, maybe urgent, casual. You can adjust the language, maybe even how often it follows up. The project manager still makes the final call, ensuring the message has the right emotional intelligence and fits the team culture.
Okay, that makes sense. And within the Microsoft world, you mentioned Copilot. That takes the context thing even further, right?
Oh, absolutely. Copilot can directly interact with content stored in SharePoint or even specific Word documents within the organization's system. So it's not just looking at the chat history, it's tapping into the approved official knowledge base that gives it a much deeper understanding.
And that deeper context probably feeds right into managing meetings, which, let's be honest, can be a huge time sink.
Definitely. This is an area where AI's ability to structure complex information really shines. You can handle the whole meeting lifecycle, before, during, and after.
We saw a really detailed example in the sources, didn't we? It wasn't just creating a simple bullet list for an agenda.
No, not at all. The example was generating an agenda for a 3-day digital marketing workshop. It really showed the level of complexity the AI can handle.
Right, structured it progressively. Day 1 was fundamentals, day 2 got into advanced stuff, day 3 was practical application.
Exactly. And look at the detail. For day 1, it didn't just say intro. It scheduled a specific keynote, gave it a time slot, say 9:00 to 10:30 a.m. for SEO basics, assigned a speaker, and, this is key, defined the objective for that session. Something like, ensure participants grasp fundamental search engine principles.
It's that objective setting and the granular timing that makes it more than just a list. It turns it into a real plan, a structured learning path.
Precisely. Then day 2 shifts gears, maybe a 2-hour block on advanced SEO, another on content marketing. And the objective changes too, maybe focusing on using analytics for data-driven decisions.
And day 3 is all about hands-on work.
Right. Workshops, case studies, Q&A sessions to make sure the learning sticks. The prompt even asks the AI to format it as a table, use bolding for speakers. It basically acts like a meticulous event coordinator. A project manager can get this high-quality professional structure drafted in minutes, not hours. It ensures the information flows logically and participants don't get overwhelmed.
That structuring capability links directly to knowledge management, doesn't it? Documenting and archiving everything, which is critical for audits later on, or just remembering what was decided.
Yeah, it goes way beyond just taking minutes. AI can do real-time transcription during meetings, automatically summarize the key points, and then tag and sort those conversations for easy retrieval later, based on keywords, topics, even sentiment analysis.
And the sources mentioned this actually improves compliance and data security. How does that work?
Well, by integrating with the company's existing document management systems, it centralizes all these records. No more hunting through different chat logs or email threads. This centralization enables really powerful search. You could just type a natural language question like, show me all discussions about supply chain risks from last quarter, and get results instantly.
Okay, that's useful. But the compliance part?
Critically, the AI can be trained on internal policies or external regulations. It can then flag conversations or documents that seem non-compliant. Maybe it detects sensitive data being discussed in an insecure channel, or a decision that contradicts a regulatory requirement.
And it can alert someone.
Yes, it can send automated alerts to project leadership or the compliance team for urgent review. So it's not just storing data passively, it's actively monitoring it against the rules. This helps mitigate the risk of human error or oversight on really important compliance issues. It adds a layer of security. Okay, so now let's shift gears. We've talked about the daily grind, the logistics. Now let's look at how AI fits into the more structured, traditional world of predictive project management, the waterfall model. Step by step, phase by phase.
Right, the linear approach. Where does AI jump in first? Has to be the initiating phase, right? Concept validation, figuring out if the project is even worth doing.
Exactly. This phase is all about assessing the value proposition and feasibility. AI's core role here is doing that assessment rapidly and backing it up with solid data.
The sources had that great example of initiating a big solar energy farm project. That sounds like something that would normally take ages, tons of manual research.
Traditionally, yes, you'd have engineers, finance people, legal teams, all doing separate analyses. Now, ChatGPT can perform a lot of that initial market and technical research almost instantly, pulling data from multiple sources.
What kind of data points are we talking about? What makes its feasibility study better than, say, a quick Google search?
Oh, much deeper. First, it assesses actual energy demand in the target regions. It looks at current energy prices, government subsidies, regulations, all to estimate a potential ROI. Then on the technical side, it can access and analyze data from specialized mapping tools to look at solar exposure levels across different potential sites. It factors in land costs, zoning laws, potential environmental hurdles specific to that area.
Wow. So it's not just saying, yeah, it's sunny there. It's digging into local land use regulations and costs.
Precisely. And it goes further. It can gauge public sentiment by analyzing reviews or news articles about similar projects nearby. It also looks at competitors. What's their market share, their pricing, how reliable are they perceived to be? It pulls all this together so the decision to move forward is based on a really comprehensive, multi-dimensional picture, ensuring it actually aligns with market needs and public acceptance.
Okay, project initiated. Now we move to the planning phase. This is where the blueprints get drawn up, the architecture is decided. How does AI contribute here?
Here, the AI shifts towards generating the technical depth needed for a robust and effective solution. Think about designing the actual system. The example used was developing an AI-powered cybersecurity application, specifically for detecting network intrusions. That's complex stuff.
Definitely. So what does the AI do?
After analyzing the specific security requirements, maybe detecting novel, zero-day threats is a priority. ChatGPT, according to the source, recommended using a convolutional neural network, a CNN.
Huh. I usually associate CNNs with image recognition, like finding cats in pictures. Why use that for network traffic? That's not visual.
That's the interesting technical insight. Network traffic, especially when you're looking for intrusions, is this high-speed stream of multidimensional data. You've got packet sizes, timing between packets, source and destination ports, connection frequency. It's complex time series data. A CNN is actually really good at finding patterns in multidimensional data like this. It excels at spotting hierarchical features. It can recognize how a sequence of small, seemingly innocent network events, when combined in a specific pattern, actually indicate a sophisticated attack that a simpler algorithm might miss. It's like pattern recognition for behavior, not just images.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's identifying subtle, layered patterns. And the AI doesn't just suggest, use a CNN, right? It fleshes it out.
Right. It provides a detailed flowchart. It outlines the whole process, how to collect the raw network data, the necessary pre-processing steps like cleaning and normalizing it, the feature extraction using the CNN itself, and then the final intrusion detection and classification step. This gives the engineering team a clear, unambiguous blueprint to start from. It really reduces the ambiguity in the planning phase.
Next up, the executing phase. Building the thing, writing code, debugging. The example was a remote patient monitoring app.
Yeah, this is a great case study because you're dealing with huge volumes of sensitive, real-time data. Think heart rate monitors, glucose sensors, blood pressure cuffs, all sending data constantly. And it's often noisy or inconsistent. ChatGPT can automate large parts of the data pre-processing pipeline, standardizing formats, cleaning up outlier readings, making sure the data is consistent before it feeds into any analysis models. It can also help organize patient records, maybe labeling them by condition, age group, medication, whatever's needed.
Does it actually help write the code too?
It assists, yes. It can generate code snippets or modules for specific functions. For example, algorithms to detect faults or anomalies in the incoming patient data, like spotting an irregular heartbeat pattern or a sudden, dangerous drop in glucose levels. It can even help develop the logic for basic treatment recommendation algorithms based on established clinical guidelines. It doesn't replace the developer, but it handles some of the routine, yet critical, coding tasks.
The sources mentioned something really interesting, using predictive analytics to spot patients at risk before something bad happens.
That's a huge potential benefit, moving from reactive to proactive healthcare. By analyzing trends across maybe thousands of patients, the AI could identify patterns that indicate a patient is at higher risk of a specific complication soon. It could then flag this to the healthcare provider, suggesting maybe a change in medication, ordering an extra test, or scheduling an earlier follow-up. Spotting those emerging risks and enabling preventive action, that's a potentially life-saving application.
Okay, execution leads to monitoring and controlling. Quality assurance, testing, making sure everything works as intended.
Right. Rigorous testing is absolutely essential, especially for complex systems where different parts have to work together seamlessly. The example here was a smart building management system for a large commercial building. Think integrated HVAC, lighting, security, access control, all run by a central system.
How does AI help test something that complex?
Its core role here is simulation. ChatGPT can simulate thousands of different operational scenarios. For instance, it could simulate sudden changes in occupancy across different floors and see how quickly and efficiently the HVAC and lighting systems respond. It could simulate security breaches to test alarm responses.
So it's like a massive stress test before the system ever goes live in the real building.
Exactly. It pushes the system to its limits under controlled conditions. Then it generates detailed reports on how well the system performed: responsiveness, energy efficiency, security reaction times under stress. If it finds a bottleneck, like maybe the lighting system takes too long to adjust when people enter a room, it flags it immediately for the specialist to fix. This catches problems before deployment, ensuring the system meets performance standards and compliance requirements.
And finally, the closing phase. Deployment, handing the project over, creating the final documentation and audit trail.
Yep, wrapping things up. For something like an AI-driven inventory management system, ChatGPT can automate the creation of the final documentation package. This includes detailed deployment logs, a summary of all the work done, change logs, and crucially, a comprehensive challenge logbook. That logbook tracks issues encountered and resolved throughout the project, which is invaluable for future audits or troubleshooting.
It basically creates the project's history file. And it prepares the handover package for the client too. User manuals, maintenance guides.
All of that. And very importantly, it generates the final performance report. It takes the initial objectives and KPIs defined way back in the planning phase and compares them against the actual results and operational metrics achieved. This provides a clear, data-backed assessment of whether the project met its goals. It's essential for that final sign-off and for learning lessons for future projects.
Okay, that covers the entire predictive life cycle, step by step. It sounds like AI offers huge benefits at every stage. But you mentioned significant trade-offs earlier. What are the big limitations we need to keep in mind?
Well, first, communication. While AI is great at drafting messages and summaries, it really struggles with the subtleties. It doesn't easily pick up on sarcasm, complex emotional nuances, or the kind of unspoken political undercurrents that often exist in project teams. A good PM reads the room. AI can't do that yet.
Right, it lacks that human intuition.
Second, prediction. Even with sophisticated algorithms, AI can only predict based on the data it has been trained on. It cannot accurately forecast truly unprecedented events, the black swans. If something completely unexpected happens, the AI's predictions might be useless or even misleading.
And the third one you mentioned, the one affecting the PM's role directly, tool dependence.
Yes, this is critical. Automation is great for efficiency, but over-reliance is a real risk. If the AI always generates the schedule or always does the risk assessment, the project manager's own skills in those areas can atrophy over time. That intuitive judgment built on years of experience might fade. The sources strongly warn that human judgment must remain the final check. The PM needs to understand the AI's output, question it, and override it when necessary. Otherwise, the project becomes brittle, unable to cope when the AI inevitably hits a situation outside its training data.
Okay, those limitations, especially the rigidity of predictive models, lead us nicely into Agile. Agile is all about speed, feedback, iteration. How does AI fit into that much more fluid, fast-paced world? Well, in Agile, the initial phases, concept and initiating, aren't about exhaustive planning. The goal is super fast validation and getting the team up and running immediately. AI really helps accelerate this kickoff.
Can you give us that specific example from the sources again?
Sure. Imagine a team starting work on a new telemedicine platform. Instead of spending days setting up individual development environments, the AI can automate the whole configuration process. It can spin up the necessary software containers, databases, APIs for every team member, basically on day one. Getting that environment ready instantly is a huge boost for starting the first sprint quickly.
And requirements gathering. In Agile, you need user stories fast, not lengthy documents.
Exactly. Traditional interviews take time. Instead, the sources describe using machine learning to scrape feedback directly from users' patients, doctors from places like online forums, app reviews, maybe even social media chats related to telehealth. The AI performs sentiment analysis, identifies common themes and pain points, and translates that raw feedback directly into prioritized user stories for the product backlog. It ensures that first sprint is genuinely focused on what users actually want or need.
And it can even help the Scrum Master get the team dynamics going.
Yeah, that was interesting. ChatGPT could analyze anonymized data about team member skills and maybe their performance on past projects. Based on that, it could suggest an initial allocation of tasks for the first sprint, trying to match the right skills to the most critical backlog items right from the start.
Okay, so it accelerates the setup. What about Agile planning and design? That's not a one-off phase. It's continuous, iterative.
Right. The system evolves. Take the example of an AI-powered driver assistance system in a car. That's incredibly complex, constantly being updated with new features or based on test data. ChatGPT can generate and, crucially, update the architectural diagrams iteratively. These diagrams show how data flows from sensors through control units to the driver interface. As features change sprint by sprint, the diagrams need to keep pace.
And it's also recommending specific algorithms as they go.
Yes, matching the algorithm to the job. For a relatively simple function like detecting lane markings, it might recommend a faster, less resource-intensive algorithm, like a decision tree. But for a really complex task like recognizing pedestrians or other vehicles in bad weather, it might recommend a more powerful, but computationally heavier, neural network. It helps ensure the architecture is both effective for the task and efficient in terms of computing resources.
And it helps with testing strategies, too.
Definitely. It can generate comprehensive test plans and even create specific test cases directly from the user story's acceptance criteria.
Ah, that link is vital, isn't it? If the user story says, the system must warn the driver if a car is closer than 2 meters, the AI generates the exact test case to verify that 2-meter threshold.
Absolutely. It creates this tight loop, ensuring that what's being developed directly maps to the agreed requirements and can be verified automatically through testing within that short sprint cycle.
Okay, now the core of Agile. Iterative development, the actual sprints, fast delivery, code quality, finding errors quickly.
Right. The example here was an e-commerce recommendation engine. Think people who bought this also bought. Speed is everything. AI boosts speed by automating repetitive tasks, like data preprocessing in e-commerce. That means cleaning up and normalizing massive amounts of messy user clickstream data. It can also provide boilerplate code for common features, like generating similar items lists or collaborative filtering logic. Developers aren't starting from a blank page every time.
And quality control is baked in.
Continuously. It can assist during code reviews, automatically flagging potential bugs, inconsistencies, security vulnerabilities, or deviations from the team's coding standards. It can suggest fixes right there on the fly. Then, after each sprint, it runs automated tests against the acceptance criteria defined earlier. This constant checking helps minimize technical debt, the accumulation of small problems that can slow down future development, which is a common challenge in fast-paced agile environments. It keeps the velocity high.
Let's talk about the hybrid approach now. This tries to blend the structure of predictive with the flexibility of agile. Where does AI fit into that marriage?
The idea with hybrid is often to use the more rigorous predictive approach for the initial setup and foundational elements, where stability and compliance are paramount. So take building a big cloud-based CRM system. In the initial phase, ChatGPT would help create those core governance documents, the formal statement of work, SOW, detailed technical feasibility studies, initial contracts, and ensuring everything aligns with regulations like GDPR. You nail down the fundamentals first.
So AI helps lay that solid, compliant foundation using the predictive model's strengths.
Exactly. You get the scope, budget, and legal framework locked down. Then once that solid base is established, the project might shift to a more iterative, agile approach for developing the actual software features. Think about the web application development part.
Yeah.
Here, ChatGPT could continuously help refine the user interface and user experience based on feedback from early testers or A/B testing results. It might iteratively adjust the underlying machine learning models, perhaps, for predicting customer churn as more data comes in and user needs evolve.
So it's like using predictive to build the strong container and then using Agile, assisted by AI, to dynamically build the product inside that container.
That's a great way to put it. You get the upfront rigor where you need it, and the flexibility for development and adaptation where that's more beneficial. AI supports both sides of that equation. Okay, we've covered the technical processes, predictive, agile, but projects are run by people. We really need to get into the behavioral side of things now. Managing projects is, at its heart, about managing human behavior, human risk, human cognition.
Right. Let's start with crisis prevention. Can AI act as an early warning system, spotting trouble before it blows up into a full-blown crisis?
The potential is definitely there. By constantly monitoring both the hard data performance metrics, budget burn rates, and the softer data like communication patterns, AI can learn to identify subtle red flags that might indicate a project is heading towards trouble. If it detects a pattern it recognizes as a precursor to crisis, based on past projects maybe, it can automatically escalate the issue to the right stakeholders. This allows for a much earlier targeted intervention before things get really bad.
What specific things is it looking at? What are these red flags it's searching for in the project data and communications?
The sources highlighted several key areas. It actively scans the risk management plan, looking for sudden increases in the number or severity of risks being added, or frequent updates suggesting instability. It monitors issue logs, not just the raw number of issues, but whether they are becoming more severe or being created at an accelerating rate. That velocity can be a key indicator. It analyzes stakeholder communications, things like emails, memos, even meeting transcripts if available, using sentiment analysis. Is dissatisfaction growing? Is there increasing friction between key parties? That can predict non-cooperation down the line.
And money problems are always a big warning sign.
Absolutely. It watches financial reports for unexpected budget deviations, unapproved spending, or signs that contingency funds are being eaten up too quickly. And finally, it tracks change requests. A sudden flood of requests for changes to scope or resources often signals that the project's foundation is shaky or the requirements weren't properly defined initially. Given that some studies suggest communication effectiveness accounts for something like 90% of project success, having AI continuously monitoring these communication and data streams offers a really powerful early warning capability.
That leads into this concept of behavioral project management, or behavioral PM. The idea, as I understand it, is that project management is really a thinking person's game, relying heavily on cognitive skills. But projects often fail because our brains naturally tend to summarize and simplify, meaning we miss critical details.
That's the core idea. Behavioral PM tries to merge traditional project management with insights from behavioral science to design processes that actively counteract these known human cognitive biases and limitations. A key strategy is to essentially outsource some of the heavy cognitive lifting, the really detailed, exhaustive analysis that our brains tend to shy away from, to AI tools. This frees up the human project manager to focus their limited cognitive bandwidth on higher-level judgment, strategy, and interpretation.
How does that work in practice? The sources mentioned 3 specific ways you can use simple prompts with AI to complement human thinking.
Right. The first one is unpacking activities. We humans suffer badly from optimism bias, especially when estimating time or effort. We tend to think things will go quicker and smoother than they actually do. Think about estimating a task. If you ask someone how long will task X take, they give you one number, often optimistic. But if you force them, or use AI to force them, to break task X down into all its tiny substeps and estimate each one, the total estimate becomes much more realistic.
Because you're confronting all the little pieces of work involved, the friction points you'd normally gloss over in a high-level estimate.
Exactly. The human brain finds that detailed breakdown tedious. It prefers the summary. By prompting the AI to unpack this activity into all its subcomponents and estimate each, you systematically force a more granular, realistic assessment. This directly counteracts the optimism bias and leads to much more accurate planning.
Okay, that makes sense. The second one was obstacle identification. You stressed this is different from standard risk management.
Yes, there's a subtle but important cognitive difference. A risk is something uncertain. It might happen. A supplier might be late. An obstacle is a known impediment, something that will happen and needs to be navigated. For example, the mandatory internal legal review will take 3 days. Or migrating the database will require 4 hours of system downtime. These aren't risks. They're known constraints or hurdles in the path.
So instead of just asking the AI to identify risks, we prompt it more specifically. Identify the known obstacles to completing this work package.
Precisely. That simple framing difference encourages the project team, aided by the AI, to explicitly identify and plan for these inevitable friction points. These are often overlooked or minimized in traditional risk logs, but they absolutely impact the schedule and workflow. Recognizing them upfront increases planning reliability.
And the third technique uses a bit of psychology. Positive framing of risk.
Yeah. Discussing risks and planning mitigations can often feel negative or burdensome to stakeholders. It can lead to resistance, maybe foot-dragging on improving mitigation actions. So after using Gen AI to help identify risks and potential mitigation strategies, you can add another prompt. Now, reframe these risks and mitigation plans in a positive light, focusing on the opportunities created or the stability achieved by addressing them. The AI can then reword the discussion points to emphasize, say, how mitigating a specific risk actually opens up a new market opportunity, or how addressing a vulnerability enhances long-term system resilience. This uses psychological framing to make the necessary risk management actions more palatable and helps achieve stakeholder buy-in more easily and quickly. It greases the wheels for decision-making. So we've seen the incredible power and potential of AI across the board, but all that power relies on a human ultimately interpreting and trusting the AI's output. What happens if that output itself is flawed? This brings us to the critical challenge of AI hallucination.
Hallucination. That sounds pretty alarming, especially in a project context where decisions have real consequences. Can you define that clearly for us?
Sure. It's when the AI generates information that is simply false, misleading, maybe completely fabricated, or just not supported by the actual data it was trained on. And the really tricky part is that this false information often looks plausible. It can be presented coherently, confidently, using professional language, but it has no basis in reality or in the project's actual documentation or verified external knowledge. It just makes stuff up, essentially.
And what causes this? Is it just bugs in the code?
Yeah. It's usually more fundamental than that. Two main causes are often cited. First, there's noise in the massive data sets used to train these models. Conflicting information, data lacking context, biases present in the original data. The AI learns from this imperfect soup, which can lead to it generating outputs that reflect those imperfections. It lacks real-world grounding sometimes. Second, and potentially more worrying, are deliberate adversarial attacks. These are subtle manipulations made to the input data, specifically designed by malicious actors to trick the AI into making a wrong prediction or generating false information. And these manipulations can be almost invisible to humans.
The source mentioned that example of changing just a tiny fraction of pixels in an image, like 0.3%, to make an AI misclassify something, like hiding the fact a dog wasn't wearing a service vest. How could that kind of attack manifest in a project management tool?
Imagine an AI tool used for compliance checks or generating budget reports. A sophisticated adversarial attack might subtly tweak the input data so the AI generates, say, a resource allocation report that looks perfectly fine and compliant, but actually directs funds to an unauthorized budget line. Or maybe it causes a risk assessment AI to incorrectly flag a critical safety check as completed or low priority. The project manager, relying on the AI's dashboard, sees green lights and approves something that is fundamentally flawed or non-compliant. The AI's output looks trustworthy, but it's been manipulated.
That really highlights the risk. It's not just about inconvenience. It could affect project integrity, safety, financials, impacting critical systems like self-driving cars, facial recognition, and yes, the project dashboards we rely on.
And this vulnerability connects directly to the broader problem of misinformation and how digital tools can potentially erode our ability to think critically. That MIT research you mentioned earlier provided a really sharp insight into this.
Right. They found people tend to believe news, even false news, if it confirms what they already think politically. Their biases make them susceptible.
Correct. But the crucial finding was this. When those same people were prompted to simply stop and think about the accuracy of the headline, even for just a second, their ability to distinguish truth from falsehood improves significantly. The capacity for critical evaluation is there. It just needs to be activated.
But the problem with social media, and perhaps increasingly with AI tools, is the speed. We're scrolling, reacting, getting instant answers. There's very little friction, very little incentive to stop and reflect.
Exactly. The sheer volume and velocity of information, often designed to be emotionally engaging, creates what the researchers called little time for reflection. We process it faster and more superficially than we might with, say, a traditional newspaper article. And this lack of reflection time becomes particularly dangerous when combined with hyper-customization.
You're talking about that warning from OpenAI's CEO, Sam Altman, about highly personalized messages.
Yes. His point was that if an AI has access to vast amounts of your data, emails, chats, documents, maybe even social media, it can build an incredibly detailed psychological profile. It knows your biases, your interests, your insecurities, maybe even when you're likely to be tired or stressed. It could then potentially generate a single, perfectly crafted, perfectly timed message designed specifically to nudge your opinion, change your attitude, or influence a decision, perhaps without you even realizing you're being targeted. It's a level of potential manipulation we haven't really faced before.
The example used was personalized puppy content, making you more receptive to other messages mixed in. The enjoyment lowers your guard.
Right. Now, apply that to a project manager. If you're using an AI assistant that has been subtly influenced, maybe through its training data or even adversarial tweaking, to constantly confirm your existing biases, maybe your optimism bias about timelines, or your aversion to a certain type of risk, it could subtly warp your judgment over time. It might consistently frame risks in a way that minimizes them, or highlight data that supports your preferred approach while downplaying conflicting evidence. The subconscious shaping of your perspective, reinforcing your biases instead of challenging them, is the core danger for critical decision-making.
So given these risks, hallucination, manipulation, reinforcing bias, what can we actually do? What mitigation strategies did the sources suggest?
They proposed a range of strategies, about 10 in total. The ones most relevant here focus on encouraging that critical evaluation and reflection. This includes things like designing AI tools or platforms to include reflective prompts. Maybe asking, are you sure this information is accurate? Or have you considered alternative viewpoints before you accept or share AI-generated content? Creating moments of friction. It also involves rethinking how we measure engagement, moving away from just time spent on a platform towards metrics that value informed engagement. Did the user interact with fact-checking resources? Did they look at diverse sources?
And deliberately breaking out of filter bubbles.
Yeah, designing algorithms specifically for diverse information exposure, ensuring users are presented with perspectives that might challenge their current beliefs, not just confirm them. Ultimately, all these strategies point back to the same conclusion. AI must be viewed as an assistant to human judgment, never a replacement for it.
Which means those human soft skills, critical thinking, judgment, empathy, strategic awareness, clear communication, agility, they don't become obsolete with AI. They actually become more important, don't they?
Exponentially more important. The AI can handle the technical heavy lifting, the data crunching, the pattern spotting, but the human project manager provides the essential context, the ethical compass, the strategic direction, and the final validation. That oversight role is irreplaceable.
There was a final point in the sources about privacy, too, regarding the data used to train these AIs.
Right. Advanced techniques like differential privacy and federated learning are being developed to help protect individual user data while still allowing models to be trained on large data sets. These are technically complex, though. The sources noted that smaller organizations, which might rely more on traditional consent-based frameworks like GDPR, could face challenges in navigating the complexities of using global, often anonymized data for training Gen AI tools while remaining fully compliant. Ensuring both technical sophistication and robust, accessible privacy protection is another key challenge. #tag outro.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground today. We've journeyed through the entire project lifecycle, seeing how AI is being woven into everything from those quick Slack messages right up to defining the architecture for massive, complex projects, the gains in efficiency, the potential for optimizing planning and analysis. It's really quite striking.
It is. And the clear takeaway for you, the listener, has to be the need to find that harmonious blend. Let the AI do the heavy lifting on data analysis, on detailed task breakdowns, on running complex simulations. That's where its strength lies. But the human element, your element, provides the absolutely critical balance point. You bring the empathy needed to manage stakeholders, the strategic foresight to question the AI and mitigate risks like hallucination, and the ethical judgment that has to underpin every significant decision.
So AI is the incredibly powerful assistant, but the PM is still firmly in the driver's seat, responsible for steering.
Exactly. And that leads us to the final, provocative thought for you to take away today. We've heard how AI can now craft these deeply personalized communications, potentially influencing our thinking in subtle ways, as Sam Altman warned. So the question for you is this. As you start using these powerful AI tools more and more in your own project management work, whether it's for drafting agendas, assessing risks, or communicating with your team, how will you actively build in checks and balances? How will you ensure these tools are genuinely assisting your unbiased critical judgment, rather than just becoming a sophisticated echo chamber, subtly confirming the cognitive biases you already have? Grappling with that question, ensuring AI serves rather than subtly directs your thinking. That's really the foundational challenge and opportunity of managing projects in this new AI-driven era.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We're here to break down complex research into, well, the knowledge you need right now. Today, we're tackling something huge. It's transforming workplaces everywhere, artificial intelligence, specifically how tools like ChatGPT are integrating into project management. It's complex, it's moving fast.
It really is. And this is probably one of the most critical conversations for professionals today. The sources you pulled together, they paint a picture not just of AI supporting PMs, but really redefining the whole function.
Right.
And it's not about replacing people. That's completely the wrong way to look at it.
Yeah, I think people jump to that conclusion too quickly.
They do. Instead, we need to focus on how AI changes how things get done, how decisions get made, how we spot risks earlier, and really importantly, how we gain massive efficiency without, losing quality.
Okay, so for this deep dive, our mission is clear. We need the actionable facts. What can these tools really do? What are the big risks, security, ethics, and what about the rules, the regulations popping up? We've kind of structured this around 4 key tensions, right? Augmentation versus automation, prediction versus actual decision-making.
Crucial difference.
Then algorithmic fairness versus bias, always a big one.
Always.
And finally, balancing data use with, bulletproof security. So let's kick things off with the basics, the vocabulary. Because getting this right sets the stage. We hear automation and augmentation thrown around, sometimes like they're the same thing.
Yeah, and they're really not, especially in project management. That distinction is absolutely vital.
Okay, so break it down for us. Automation.
Think of automation as substitution.
Yeah.
Pure and simple. It's for the routine stuff, the predictable tasks. Once you set it up, it just runs. Like data entry, maybe generating those standard weekly status reports or scheduling basic team check-ins.
The stuff nobody really wants to do anyway.
Pretty much. It takes a human out of the loop for that specific repetitive task. Saves time, reduces errors on the boring stuff.
Okay, so if automation takes the human out, what does augmentation do?
Augmentation is all about empowerment. It makes the human better. It doesn't replace the PM. It enhances their abilities. Think of it like a superpowered co-pilot.
The co-pilot, I like that.
Yeah. It boosts efficiency, gives you data-backed insights almost instantly, makes your forecasts way more accurate, and maybe most importantly, it helps you make better decisions when things get really complex or, ambiguous.
So it frees up the PM for the harder stuff.
Exactly. It elevates their strategic game, lets them focus on the uniquely human parts, leadership, dealing with people.
Your sources use that analogy of robot-assisted surgery, which is powerful, right? It really shows augmentation in action.
It does.
But I wonder, the stakes feel different in project management. It's not life or death like surgery, but you've got accountability, tricky team dynamics. How do we make sure PMs don't just start blaming the AI if a prediction it helped make goes wrong?
That's a really important point, and it leads right into the whole human-in-the-loop idea we need to cover later.
Yeah.
It's about where accountability ultimately lies.
Right.
But just sticking with the surgery analogy for a second, the robot gives the surgeon incredible precision, stability they couldn't achieve alone. But the surgeon is still in charge. They make the call, they watch the patient, they own the risk, ethically and professionally. In project management, the AI gives you that precision with data, but the PM brings the leadership, accepts the risk, makes the ethical judgment. AI handles the complexity of the data. The human handles the complexity of the situation and the accountability.
So those human skills, leadership, empathy, strategic thinking, they actually become more valuable, not less.
Absolutely. That's the key takeaway. When AI handles the transactional stuff, the human skills become purely transformational.
It's the combination, the synergy.
That's the sweet spot. AI's processing power plus human judgment and nuance.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Where does this augmentation actually show up in day-to-day project work? Planning, execution. The sources gave 5 really specific use cases.
Yeah, these are great because they move beyond just theory. These are things you can start doing like now for real efficiency gains.
Okay, first up, augmented scope definition. It's always a tricky phase, right? Get the scope wrong early and you're in trouble later.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Think about how it usually works. A PM digs through old documents, talks to people, tries to piece it all together manually. It takes ages. Now, imagine grabbing all your past project plans, requirements docs, risk logs, maybe even closeout reports, say 100 different files. Zip them up, upload them to the AI.
Okay.
Then you prompt it. Analyze this history. Find common scope items, recurring needs, potential conflicts, generate a first draft scope document, estimate resources, give me a timeline.
Wow.
And here's the really powerful part. You can tell the AI how to handle conflicts it finds in those old files. Like, prioritize speed over budget on this one, or vice versa.
Yeah.
That massively improves the quality of that first draft.
That's potentially saving days, maybe weeks of work right there. Okay, next, resource allocation. The spreadsheet nightmare.
Yeah, and this is where AI can really optimize things. You feed it a structured spreadsheet, an .xlsx file. Needs to be clear. Who's available, what skills they have, budget limits, rules like no overtime, whatever your constraints are.
So the setup is key.
Absolutely. Garbage in, garbage out still applies. But if the input is good, the AI processes those rules and calculates the exact needs, staff, money, materials, and it distributes them efficiently based on your criteria.
Can it spot things a human might miss?
For sure. It might see that 2 critical tasks are suddenly going to clash because something else slipped and proactively suggest shifting a key person to prevent a bottleneck. That's a level of foresight that's hard to achieve manually across complex projects.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, moving into the project actually running, milestone setting and risk assessment.
Right. Often you start with a detailed requirements doc or charter, maybe a Word file, the .docs. You upload that. The AI analyzes it, maybe compares it to benchmarks for similar projects. It sets realistic milestones based on that history. But the real augmentation is the risk analysis. It doesn't just list generic risks. It uses pattern recognition from past projects to predict where this specific project is likely to hit trouble.
Like what?
Well, say it's a big construction project. Based on past data for similar builds, it might flag a high probability of permitting delays in a specific region or issues with a particular supplier's lead times. And it suggests specific mitigation steps right away, like putting a really strict change control process in place from day one.
Proactive, not reactive.
Exactly. And then, once you're executing, there's the reporting burden. Everyone needs different information.
Oh, yeah. The execs want the high level, the tech team needs the nitty-gritty.
Precisely. And that's where augmented reporting comes in. You give the AI the raw data, burn-down charts, cost variance, schedule updates. Then you prompt it to generate multiple reports from that single source.
Tailored reports.
Yep. Highly technical for the IT team, focusing on bugs and velocity. At the same time, a concise executive summary for management, just budget, key milestones, strategic impact, same data, different views, generated automatically. Cuts down hugely on communication friction.
That's a massive time saver. Okay, last one, feedback analysis. Making sure you actually learn from what happened.
Right, continuous improvement. The AI can process all sorts of feedback, formal surveys, maybe weekly team sentiment scores, even transcripts from stakeholder meetings.
So unstructured data too.
Potentially, yes, depending on the model's capabilities. It goes beyond just metrics to find the qualitative pain points, what frustrated people, what went really well. Then it suggests concrete, actionable changes to the project plan or processes for next time. It basically automates the feedback loop, turning comments into data-driven improvements.
These 5 use cases really paint a picture. The sources also mentioned a PwC report that looked at this more broadly, identifying 5 key areas of enhancement.
Yeah, that report reinforces how deeply AI can embed itself, both strategically and operationally.
Let's touch on those. First was business insights. What does that mean in practice?
It's more than just summarizing data. It's about filtering the noise. Project managers drown in emails, logs, meeting notes. AI cuts through that to find the critical, actionable stuff.
Like a signal finder.
Exactly. If you've got 50 projects on the go, the AI might flag the 3 that have the highest risk of blowing up in the next 2 weeks. Saves the PM from having to manually sift through everything.
Okay. Second area, risk management. You touched on this already.
Right, but the shift is from reactive to proactive probabilistic prediction. AI monitors everything constantly, project data, external feeds like news or market changes, and predicts risks much more accurately than a human gut feeling. And crucially, it tracks those risks, suggests actions, and makes sure they're followed up on. It makes risk management more science, less guesswork.
Third was human capital optimization. This sounds like it impacts the team directly.
It does. It goes beyond just checking who's free. AI can match specific people to specific tasks based on detailed skills, proficiency levels, past project performance, maybe even preferred work styles if that data exists.
So getting the absolute best person for the job.
Precisely. It optimizes team effectiveness, making sure the right skills are on the right task at the right time, better results, potentially less burnout.
Okay, fourth, the action taker role. This sounded more physical.
Yeah, this is huge in industries like construction, mining, infrastructure. AI integrates with things like sensors, cameras, drones. Yep, for real-time monitoring. Imagine building a bridge. The AI processes drone footage. Is component A being installed before component B like it should be? Are workers wearing hard hats? It spots issues in real time and alerts the site manager.
Instant oversight. And the last one, active assistance.
This is kind of the catch-all for automating the admin burden. Scheduling, managing documents, sorting emails, basic comms, all the stuff that eats up a PM's day.
Freeing them up again.
Exactly. Freeing them up for the high-value human work.
Yeah.
Managing stakeholders, negotiating, motivating the team. Things the AI can't do.
Okay, so we see the benefits of augmentation. Let's dig deeper into the prediction side. When a PM wants to go beyond just describing the past and start forecasting the future, that's predictive analysis. Your sources laid out a 7-step process for this, even for someone who isn't a data scientist.
Yes, and understanding this process is key because it really highlights the importance of data quality. You mentioned Professor Nita Rodriguez saying data prep is like 80% of the work.
Yeah, 80%. That's huge.
It is, because if you skip that prep, your predictions are worthless. Garbage in, garbage out.
Okay, let's walk through it. Step 1, data gathering.
Right. You start by getting your data together, ideally clean and structured. Maybe it's an Excel file with history from, say, 50 past projects. Details like scope, timelines, budget, team size, whether it succeeded or failed.
Okay.
You upload that. Then you prompt the AI, Ask it for deep insights. Look for predictive patterns in that historical data.
Step 2. Data validation and verification. Checking the input.
Absolutely crucial. Before you analyze anything, you have to ask, is this data accurate? Is it suitable? Are the formats consistent? Are there weird entries? Like a project budget listed as negative. The PM has to verify the data's integrity.
Makes sense. Step 3. Query formulation. Asking the right questions.
Exactly. You move from a general, tell me something interesting, to specific questions, like, based on these projects, what factors, team size, maybe initial budget accuracy, have the biggest impact on whether a project succeeds?
Then the big one, step 4. Data cleaning and preparation. The 80% part.
This is non-negotiable. Got missing values. Say, some projects don't have a final completion date logged. You need to tell the AI how to handle that. Use imputation techniques, basically. Statistically estimating a reasonable value so the analysis doesn't break.
Ah, okay. So you don't just delete rows with missing data.
Not usually, no. You lose too much information. Imputation fills the gaps intelligently. You also standardize formats, make sure everything's consistent. Good prep makes for reliable predictions. Bad prep, well, you get the idea.
Got it. Step 5. Pattern identification.
Now the AI starts digging for correlations, maybe complex ones you wouldn't spot easily. You could ask, find non-obvious patterns linked to delays. It might find correlations between delays and, say, using certain third-party vendors or having teams spread across too many time zones.
Interesting. Okay. Step 6. Predictive model building. This sounds more technical.
It is, but the PM doesn't need to be a coder. They need guidance. You might ask the AI, what's a good machine learning model to forecast timeline adherence for a project like this one?
And it suggests options?
Yeah, it might suggest something like random forest or gradient boosting, and the PM needs to grasp why that matters. A model like random forest, for example, used lots of decision trees, making it less likely to get thrown off by weird outliers in your history. That means it's often more reliable for complex, real-world projects than simpler models.
So the chatbot guides you to the right tool.
Exactly. But here's a key shift. The prediction itself comes from the model you just trained, not directly from the chatbot you were talking to. You start interacting with your new prediction engine.
Ah, okay. And finally, step 7, interpretation and application. We have a prediction, now what?
Right. The model spits out a probability. Let's say it predicts a 70% chance your software project hits its launch date.
Okay, 70%. Not bad.
Not bad, but the job isn't just noting the 70%, it's about the 30% risk. What do you do with that prediction? The UNPM decides. Maybe they tell stakeholders, maybe they build in buffer time, maybe they allocate extra people to the riskiest tasks now. The prediction fuels a human decision and action plan.
Which leads perfectly into that huge distinction. Prediction is not decision.
We have to keep hammering this point home. It's absolutely critical. ML gives you forecasts based on statistics, often just correlations in the data.
Correlation isn't causation. The classic example.
Right. Like sunglasses sales and ice cream sales both go up when it's sunny. They're correlated, but sunglasses don't cause people to eat ice cream.
So how does that play out in a project?
Well, the AI might find a correlation. Projects with big budgets always finish late. Interesting, but why? That's the causation question the human needs to answer. Maybe big budget projects always involve complex legal reviews that add 3 weeks. That's the cause of the delay, not just the budget size itself. The ML finds the what, the correlation. The human have to dig for the why, the cause.
Because the decision involves judgment, ethics, accountability, things the model just doesn't have.
Precisely. And that's why we need the human in the loop, or HITL.
Yeah.
It's not a one-off check. It's this constant back and forth between the human, the PM, or maybe a data scientist, and the AI system. It's a partnership, a cycle.
So the human acts as a moderator. What does that involve?
It's a big role. The moderator makes sure the AI's outputs actually align with the project goals. They tweak the training data as the real world changes. And crucially, they bring in the stuff machines can't handle. Ethical checks, spotting and correcting bias, taking final accountability, ensuring transparency for everyone involved. The human guides the AI's development and judges its results.
The sources used a medical diagnosis example for HITL, which really drives it home because the stakes are so high.
It's the perfect illustration. An AI diagnostic tool analyzes tons of patient data vitals, labs, history, and gives probabilities. Maybe 70% chance of pneumonia, 30% chance of bronchitis.
The AI gives the odds.
But the doctor makes the call. They look at the AI's output, sure, but they also bring their years of experience, their knowledge of the patient's specific messy history, maybe factors the AI didn't weigh properly. They might agree with the 70% pneumonia call, or they might see something subtle the AI missed and diagnose something else entirely.
They integrate the AI's input into their own judgment.
Exactly. The doctor stays in the loop, makes the final diagnosis, takes responsibility, plans the treatment. The AI is a powerful assistant, not the decision maker. That's the model project managers need to adopt.
Okay, let's shift gears to the risk side. We trust the process, we see the predictive power, but what if the results are just unfair? When AI starts influencing resource allocation or performance reviews or who gets picked for a team, algorithmic fairness becomes a massive ethical and legal issue.
It really does. And the biggest danger is bias baked into the data. If the historical data you train the AI on reflects past human biases, and let's face it, it often does, then the AI will learn and potentially amplify those biases.
Even in things that seem objective.
Absolutely. The sources mentioned resume scanners. Even if you try to make it unbiased, if the historical hiring data shows one group was favored, the AI might learn that pattern and replicate it, leading to discriminatory outcomes without anyone intending it to.
And we saw that case study about racial bias in customer service chatbots. What are the real-world consequences PMs need to worry about here?
They're serious. You risk losing customer trust, which can be incredibly hard to win back. But also, increasingly, you face legal trouble, fines, lawsuits. If your AI system is found to be discriminatory in hiring or lending or how it treats customers.
So what's the defense?
Bias audits. They can't be an afterthought. Project managers need to build regular, rigorous bias audits into the entire AI lifecycle. Constantly check the data, probe the model's outputs for unfair patterns, put checks and balances in place before you deploy it.
This need for audits points to how fragile these models can be, right? When they hit messy, real-world data that's different from their training, the sources mention 3 ways models tend to break.
Yes, these distribution shifts are often why a model that looked great in testing starts failing after a few months in the real world.
What's the first one?
Underrepresented inputs. Basically, the training data didn't cover certain groups or situations well enough. The example was a healthcare AI. Great for 40, 65-year-olds, but bad for 35-year-olds because it didn't have enough data for them.
So in PM terms,
Maybe a model trained only on simple projects suddenly fails when you ask it to predict timelines for a super complex cutting-edge R&D project.
Right.
It just hasn't seen enough examples like that. Lack of diversity in training leads to failure in practice.
okay, second shift.
Temporal shift.
Yeah.
The world changes, right? Old data becomes obsolete. Think about economic shifts, new regulations, maybe just new jargon in your industry.
Yeah.
If your cost prediction model was trained before a huge spike in material prices, its predictions will be way off. You have to keep retraining with fresh data.
Constantly updating. Makes
Okay.
sense. And the third?
Just unusual inputs. Real life is messy and unpredictable in ways training data often isn't. The example was an image AI trained on neat satellite photos of solar farms, struggling to classify one with temporary construction gear still visible. Simple variations can throw it off if it wasn't trained on them. PMs need to anticipate these shifts to keep the models reliable.
And this loops back to accountability again and the risk of just relying too much on the AI.
It's a subtle trap. If the PM becomes too dependent, their own critical thinking skills can atrophy. They might struggle to really question or even understand the AI's recommendation, let alone defend it if challenged.
So you need more than just technical checks.
Definitely. You need regular ethical reviews too. What are the full implications of this AI suggestions? Are we comfortable with them? You have to maintain that balance, keep the human judgment sharp, prevent complacency from setting in.
Ethical issues are complex, but the security and privacy risks feel very immediate, almost visceral. That Netscope survey finding, it was pretty shocking considering the kind of data PMs handle.
It should absolutely set off alarm bells for every PM.
Yeah.
Finding people feeding sensitive company data into public versions of ChatGPT, we're talking strategy docs, customer info, even source code with passwords in it.
Passwords, wow.
It shows a fundamental lack of understanding about how these non-enterprise tools handle data. It's just negligent.
So what's the baseline rule, the absolute minimum PMs need to drum into their teams?
Assume anything you put into a non-enterprise LLM is potentially public. Unless you have a specific, secure enterprise agreement, your conversations could be used to train future models.
Even if you opt out.
Even if you opt out of training, the data is often still stored for a period, maybe 30 days, and internal vendor staff might see it. You have to treat it like a public forum. And remember, cybercrime costs are projected to hit like US $10.5 trillion by 2025. Your AI tools are powerful, but they're also huge targets.
Okay, so the risks are massive.
This has pushed development of better security, right? Privacy-preserving techniques. What should PMs know about?
Two key ones mentioned are really important. First, differential privacy.
How does that work?
It's about protecting individuals within a data set. You add a tiny bit of calculated noise or randomness to each person's data before analysis. The overall statistical patterns remain useful. You can still calculate average project durations, for example. But it becomes mathematically impossible to link any specific result back to one individual.
So you could analyze HR data for resource planning without violating privacy.
Exactly. That's a key use case.
Yeah.
The second technique is homomorphic encryption. This one sounds like sci-fi, but it's real.
Homomorphic. What does it let you do?
It lets you perform calculations, even complex analysis on data, while it stays fully encrypted.
You don't decrypt it first?
Nope. You operate directly on the encrypted data. This means you could say, send your encrypted project data to a third-party AI for analysis, get the results back, and your raw data was never exposed. It's huge for secure collaboration.
Incredible. But for enterprise-wide use, you need more than just clever techniques, right? What about vendor security standards?
Absolutely. Enterprise versions need robust security, strong authentication, access controls who can see what, and compliance with major regulations is non-negotiable. PMs, especially on global projects, need to check for things like CCPA for California data privacy, GDPR for EU citizen data that's huge, dictates where data can even be stored, and SOC 23 reports, which detail a vendor's security controls. You need proof your vendor meets these standards.
And how do the AI developers themselves ensure quality and security during training?
They use a process often called pause and reflect. It's like an internal audit cycle. They typically split their data maybe 80% for training the model, 20% held back for rigorous testing.
Testing for what?
Accuracy, obviously, but also for biases, for security vulnerabilities, for robustness against attacks. They train, test, validate, refine, then repeat. It's about hardening the model before it gets deployed into your project environment.
Okay, that covers internal and vendor security. What about the external environment, the global regulations? Things seem to be moving incredibly fast there. That warning about AI posing an extinction risk really seemed to light a fire under governments in 2023.
It certainly concentrated minds. And that speed means PMs can't just wait and see. You need a flexible strategy to adapt as these rules take shape. 3 big milestones from 2023 really stand out.
First, President Biden's executive order in the U.S.
Right, October 2023. That was sweeping. It basically told all U.S. government departments to figure out principles for using AI responsibly. Big focus on jobs, human rights, privacy. It set the stage for future U.S. regulation.
Second, the UK AI Safety Summit.
November 2023. That was about international cooperation, trying to set global norms for developing advanced AI safely. Got some criticism about who was invited, but the goal was clear. International standards for these powerful foundation models.
And third, maybe the most immediately impactful globally, the EU AI Act.
Yeah, this one's huge. It's close to being finalized and looks set to be the world's toughest AI regulation. It uses a risk-based approach.
High risk versus low risk.
Exactly. Anything deemed high risk, think AI and critical infrastructure, medical devices, hiring systems, faces incredibly strict rules. Data quality, transparency, mandatory human oversight, audits, the works. Low-risk AI has far fewer rules.
So what does this mean for a PM?
It means the design of your project and the AI systems you use have to align with these classifications from the start, especially if you operate internationally or have EU clients. Your goals, your tech choices, everything needs to comply. Non-compliance could be a project killer.
That's a lot to track. It really hammers home that AI manages the complexity, but humans have to manage the ethics and the compliance.
That's the perfect summary. That's the core insight from all this. These AI tools like ChatGPT, they offer amazing speed, incredible data analysis capabilities. They can streamline things massively. But that power is only truly useful and safe when it's guided by human judgment, human ethics, human accountability. The human in the loop isn't just a nice idea. It's absolutely essential for success with AI.
Yeah. The machine can chew through 100 project plans, spot correlations, predict failure odds, even suggest technical fixes. But it doesn't have empathy for a nervous stakeholder. It doesn't have the emotional intelligence to lead a struggling team. And critically, like you said, it can show you a correlation, but it can't inherently tell you the cause without human insight. So we've seen how AI can transform project management, but also the serious challenges around security, bias, and fairness. Now, thinking about those strict EU AI Act requirements for high-risk systems, the U.S. focus on compliance, the constant need for bias audits. Here's the final thought for you, the listener. How do you see your role changing over the next 5 years? And maybe more urgently, what steps do you need to take now to audit your own data practices, especially around where your data comes from, to make absolutely sure you don't accidentally deploy an AI system that's non-compliant or, worse, discriminatory? Something to think about as you shape the future of your projects. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive. Welcome to The Deep Dive. Today, we're really digging into the strategy behind AI adoption. We're looking at how things like advanced generative models are changing the game for project management.
Yeah, and the sources we're drawing on are pretty clear. It's not just about having AI as a nice-to-have tool anymore.
Right, it's becoming core.
Yeah.
A strategic partner, really. The source material even calls this shift PM AI, project management AI governance.
Exactly. And it's a huge shift. So our mission today really is to give you a fast track to understanding the strategic thinking needed for this. It's about why organizations have to get on board with these AI solutions. And it's not just for, keeping up or a small efficiency boost.
It's about making genuinely better decisions.
Right.
Driven by data across the board in project governance.
Precisely. And what's really striking is that it's not just a tech problem. You could have the most amazing AI.
But if the organization isn't ready,
It'll fall flat.
Yeah.
Strategy, culture, ethics, they all have to be aligned.
Absolutely. The sources really hammer this home. Integrating these advanced models, whether it's LLMs or complex predictive stuff, needs a holistic view.
Technical skills balanced with organizational readiness, and like you said, a strong ethical foundation. It's a whole company transformation.
It really is.
Yeah, and to help guide that, the sources lay out a pretty neat framework. 8 core principles for getting AI models integrated into an organization. Think of it as a playbook. It covers everything from the big picture strategy and data all the way through to ethics, transparency, and making sure it actually works in the real world. Accountability.
Okay, 8 principles. Let's dive into that framework. Sounds like the place to start. All right, let's unpack this. Starting at the foundation. Principle 1, AI integration strategy. Sounds like the obvious but critical first step. It's about making sure the AI plan actually lines up with what the business is trying to achieve, yeah? Not just grabbing the latest cool tech.
Exactly that. You've got to start by really nailing down the business problem you expect the AI to solve. If that's fuzzy,
the solution will be too.
Right. And a key action here is setting specific success criteria, KPIs, not just vague stuff like make things faster. We need metrics that actually measure the value the AI brings.
Yeah.
Like, did it reduce risk by X%? Did resource allocation improve measurably?
And if you don't define those tailored metrics right at the start,
you'll never know if it actually worked. You can't prove the ROI.
That focus on specific metrics immediately pulls AI out of just being an IT project.
It has to. And this first principle also insists on a multidisciplinary view. The sources use the term responsible AI, meaning you have to think about the human side, the cultural impact, even societal implications right alongside the tech.
So HR needs to be involved, IT obviously, but HR too.
Definitely. Early on, HR should be doing readiness assessments. Does the workforce understand what's coming? Are there skill gaps? Do policies need changing for people working with AI?
That collaboration piece feels huge. It really underlines that this is an organizational change project, not just deploying software. You need the HR policies documented from day one.
Okay, moving to principle 2, data management and protection. Data, as we know, is the absolute fuel for AI. So how you handle it is crucial. The strategy here needs to ensure data management is secure, ethical, and supports those business goals we just talked about.
So we need to figure out what data goes in, what comes out. But what about the data we already have? The training data, is it good enough?
That's the million-dollar question. That's a core requirement here. Assessing the quantity, sure, but much more importantly, the quality of your existing training data. And you need a plan to make sure any new data you collect is standardized, consistent. Data integrity is completely non-negotiable if you want reliable AI.
And the sources mentioned something about cleaning employee data.
Yes, rigorously cleaning it. Getting rid of information that's just plain wrong or outdated or crucially unsighted. Think about old databases with assumptions about staffing based on industry benchmarks from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's got to be flagged, sanitized. Otherwise, the AI learns bad habits.
Garbage in, garbage out still applies.
Absolutely.
Now, there was something else interesting in this principle about environmental impact. Data centers, energy use. Why is that suddenly a PM's concern for AI integration?
It loops back to that responsible AI idea from Principle 1. Sustainability is becoming a real project KPI, these large AI models. They need massive computing power. That means energy, lots of it.
Okay.
So the PM needs to look at options. Are we using cloud providers optimized for energy efficiency? Can we use decentralized storage? Basically trying to find greener ways to do it. It pulls sustainability right into the tech strategy, connecting it to the company's overall environmental goals.
And of course, safeguarding employee data is part of this too, keeping it private, secure.
Absolutely. Robust protocols, monitoring, ensuring it's handled transparently and protected from breaches. That's table stakes.
Which flows nicely into Principle 3, the ethical AI framework. Got the data sorted, now you need the moral compass for how the AI operates.
That's a good way to put it. This is about building a solid framework covering transparency, explainability, and actively working to reduce bias.
Okay, reducing bias. That sounds important, but maybe a bit abstract. How do you make that practical?
Well, this is where you need concrete rules and procedures. Checklists, even. You have to proactively look for potential biases and design ways to mitigate them. For PM, this could mean making sure your training data actually reflects the diversity of the people who will use or be affected by the AI.
Right, or setting up diverse testing groups.
Exactly. Checking the outputs. Are they fair? Are they equitable? It demands a documented, proactive effort throughout the AI's whole life cycle. You can't just cross your fingers and hope it's fair.
Yeah, I can see that. If an AI is helping with hiring or promotions, you absolutely need to ensure it's not embedding historical biases from the data.
Critically important.
Okay, so you've got the ethical rules. Now you need people to understand them. And the AI itself. Principle 4. Transparency and explainability, making it less of a black box.
Yes, exactly. AI decisions need to be open, understandable, user-friendly. People need to grasp the why behind a recommendation.
And this isn't just about the AI team understanding it. It's about managers explaining it to their teams.
That's a key part. Training designated leaders, managers, supervisors, so they can communicate the basics of how the model works. Demystifying it is crucial for adoption.
So operational transparency, like showing why the AI picked a certain algorithm.
Or showing the top factors that led to a risk score, maybe? Not just spitting out the score itself. That visibility builds trust.
And the user interface matters here too.
Hugely. The source emphasizes designing a simple, user-centric front end, the UX. If the tool is clunky or confusing, people won't use it no matter how smart the AI behind it is. Good design helps the dialogue around the AI.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork: strategy, data, ethics, transparency. Now we're moving into governing the system, keeping it secure, and making sure it scales. Principle 5, security and data privacy. This feels absolutely fundamental, especially now.
It is. Non-negotiable. The core mandate is respecting user privacy. The source even specifically notes, personal info shouldn't be shared without a really strong justification. And internal rules often need to be stricter than just the default text settings.
So building in robust security right from the data collection stage, anonymization, things like that.
Yes, strong anonymization where needed, definitely, to meet regulations like GDPR or others. But there's a more technical piece PMs need to grasp too. Protecting against adversarial attacks.
Adversarial attacks. What's that exactly?
It's where someone deliberately tries to fool the AI. They might tweak the input data just slightly, almost invisibly, to make the AI produce a completely wrong, maybe even disastrous result. Protecting against that kind of malicious activity needs sophisticated defenses and ongoing monitoring.
Wow. Okay. That adds another layer of complexity. And compliance, of course. Legal standards.
Absolutely. Built in from the start.
That complexity leads us straight into Principle 6, governance and change management. This is about the strategic rollout and making sure you're following all the rules, which seem to change constantly.
Right. International rules, industry-specific regulations. Staying compliant is a moving target. And a huge part of governance is managing the organizational change itself. You need solid plans for that, clear governance standards for the whole AI integration process.
But isn't there a tension there? Governance can feel rigid, bureaucratic. How does that fit with, say, agile methods?
That's the balancing act. PMs have to create guidelines that ensure compliance and control, but without totally stifling the agility you need to innovate and adapt. It's tricky.
And the people side of change. Can't forget that.
Never. You have to actively engage with all the stakeholders, from the top floor to the shop floor. Understand their concerns, their interest, how the AI affects them.
And governance isn't a one-time thing, right? It has to evolve.
Constantly. You set benchmarks, you monitor, you iterate. The AI model improves, the business changes. The governance has to adapt alongside it to ensure it can scale effectively.
Which brings us neatly to Principle 7, accountability and performance. How do you actually prove this expensive, complex AI system is delivering on its promises, measuring its effectiveness?
Okay, first step here is detailed risk assessment. But not just general risks. Risks tied to different user personas.
What do you mean by user personas?
Well, think about it. The risks for a CEO using an AI for strategic reports are very different from the risks for a field technician using an AI-powered repair guide. You need to anticipate risks specific to how different groups will interact with the system.
Ah, okay. Tailored risk assessment. Makes sense. Then metrics.
Then clear, measurable metrics for both performance and accountability. And, crucially, these metrics must link directly back to those business objectives we defined way back in Principle 1.
So not just measuring if the AI is fast, but if it's achieving the business goal.
Exactly. And the source says you need both types of metrics. Business KPIs like reduce project delays by X%, and technical machine learning ML metrics like model accuracy is Y%, or response time is Z milliseconds.
A hybrid approach.
Vital. You need continuous monitoring of both. Is the tech working well? And is it delivering actual business value? You constantly assess and tweak the model against those goals.
Okay, last one. Principle 8. Scalability and continuous improvement. Planning for the long haul, for growth, for keeping it useful.
This involves some detailed operational planning. PMs need to think about how the AI will need to work. Does it need real-time processing, like for fraud detection?
Or batch processing, maybe running reports overnight.
Right, or even offline processing for tasks where constant connection isn't needed or possible. Understanding these different operational needs dictates the kind of infrastructure and resources you'll need.
And that infrastructure has to be ready to handle more users, more data as the system grows.
Absolutely. You have to build for growth, strengthen the system to handle bigger loads, and keep it updated as the business itself evolves.
And crucially, user support. I remember ERP rollouts failing because of bad training.
A classic failure point. The sources really emphasize this. As the AI model changes and improves, you must provide ongoing training and support for users. That reliable help is essential. It keeps people productive, stops them getting frustrated, and prevents the whole thing from fizzling out due to low adoption. People need support to work effectively with their new AI partner.
Okay, so we've got the 8 principles, the strategy, the governance. Now let's shift gears. What does all this actually look like for the project manager on the ground? How does their day-to-day change?
Well, this is where it gets really fascinating. We're talking about augmentation, automation, much smarter decision-making. It's such a big shift that we're seeing new roles emerge, like chief AI officers and companies widely adopting things like multimodality.
Yeah, the whole landscape is changing.
And the key, according to the sources, is this blend of AI with something called behavioral project management, BPM.
BPM, that's about the human side, right? Psychology and project management.
Exactly. Applying insights about how people behave, make decisions, interact in teams. The future isn't AI replacing PMs. It's this powerful collaboration between human intelligence, HI, and artificial intelligence, AI, getting the best of both.
How does AI actually help with the behavioral side? That sounds intriguing.
Well, think about it. The AI can crunch complex data on team interactions, maybe analyzing communication patterns, tone, frequency, not the content itself, to spot potential issues like conflict brewing or burnout risk before a human might notice.
Wow, okay. Early warnings.
Yeah, or it could analyze historical data on team composition and project success to suggest, say, better team structures based on complementary personality profiles.
So the AI handles the complex pattern spotting.
Freeing up the human PM to use their empathy and leadership skills to intervene proactively based on those insights. It helps manage team dynamics much more effectively.
And this leads us to the Copilot idea, like Microsoft 365 Copilot. What role does that play for a PM?
The Copilot is essentially your AI personal assistant. It works alongside you, but, and this is key, it's not in charge.
Right, it assists.
It assists. Drafting reports, digging through company knowledge bases for information, running complex analyses, summarizing meetings, all that stuff.
While sticking to the company's AI rules.
Exactly. Adhering to those responsible AI guidelines we talked about. The idea is it handles a lot of the grunt work, the data synthesis, allowing the PM to operate at a higher, more strategic level.
Yeah.
More creative thinking, less chasing details.
And a lot of this power comes from multimodality, which you mentioned. AI isn't just about text anymore.
No, multimodal AI is a huge leap. It means the system can understand and process different types of data all at once. Text, images, audio, maybe even video feeds.
Okay, give me an example. How does that change things for a PM in practice?
All right, imagine you're in a virtual project review. A multimodal AI could transcribe what's being said, sure, but it could also analyze the video feed. Maybe it notices someone pointing at a specific part of a diagram on screen. It could identify that component, flag it, and instantly pull up its maintenance logs or budget status from the project files, all seamlessly.
Okay, that's powerful. Linking different data streams in real time.
Or imagine feeding it a stack of documents, text reports, engineering drawings, maybe audio safety briefings. The AI could digest all of that and generate a PowerPoint summary, complete with relevant visuals and charts.
It saves a massive amount of time.
Huge amounts. Now, the sources also mention a strategic choice PMs or leaders need to make. Open AI models versus closed AI models.
Right, the architecture. What's the difference?
It really depends on the project sensitivity. Open models offer more transparency, more flexibility. Your own teams can potentially tweak them, adapt them, integrate new data easily. Good for innovation for less sensitive projects.
Okay, and closed models.
They're more locked down, controlled, safer. You'd use these for highly sensitive or proprietary work, maybe classified research, critical infrastructure projects where you absolutely cannot have users accessing or modifying the underlying code. It offers greater security and IP protection.
Makes sense. Choose the right tool for the job's security needs.
Exactly.
But even with all this progress, AI isn't perfect. The sources pointed out some current weaknesses PMs need to be aware of.
Yeah, two big ones right now are reasoning reliability and personalization. First, while AI can process vast data, its deep reasoning ability can still be limited. It might give a plausible answer, but is it the best, most contextually aware answer for a critical decision? The PM still needs to be the final judge.
Human oversight remains crucial.
Absolutely. Second, real personalization is still a challenge. For an AI assistant to be truly seamless, it needs to adapt to your specific way of working, your assumptions, your risk tolerance, your history.
And getting that deep personalization means the AI needs access to, well, pretty private data, doesn't it? Emails, calendars.
That's the tension. To really optimize your workflow, the AI ideally needs context from your emails, your calendar, maybe related external data feeds. But balancing that deep access with Principle 5 security and privacy is a major hurdle we're still working through.
Okay, so given this evolving landscape, the co-pilots, the multimodality, the human-AI collaboration, what does this mean for the PM's skill set? What do people need to focus on learning now?
It's a real blend. You absolutely need tech literacy, understanding the basics of AI, data analysis, strategic planning is more important than ever, creative problem solving, and definitely prompt engineering.
Prompt engineering. Being good at asking the AI the right questions.
Precisely. Knowing how to frame your request to get the best possible output from the AI, that's becoming a core skill. Alongside that, strong interpersonal skills, adaptability, and a solid grasp of ethical AI use are vital. Change management skills, too.
And with AI automating more routine tasks, I guess the soft skills become even more critical.
Absolutely. The PM's unique value increasingly lies in their emotional intelligence, empathy, communication, resolving conflict, inspiring the team, things AI can't replicate. Especially with diverse, often remote teams, those human-centric skills are paramount for leadership.
And this all feeds into that trend of hybrid project management.
Yes. Blending the structure of waterfall with the flexibility of agile, AI tools can actually help manage that blend, dynamically adjusting plans based on real-time feedback, making hybrid approaches more feasible and effective.
That dynamic blend is really reshaping things. Let's look at where the rubber meets the road now. The sources highlighted a few key industries: IT, healthcare, construction, retail, where these changes are hitting hard and fast. Let's start with IT and engineering. They're usually early adopters. What's happening there right now?
Yeah, IT and engineering are definitely feeling the impact of Gen AI. A big current trend is using predictive analytics for resource optimization in a much more sophisticated way. Crunching complex historical project data, real-time workloads, even developer availability to forecast needs for staffing, computing resources, equipment, far more accurately than before.
Getting smarter about resource allocation.
Much smarter. We're also seeing AI embedded deeply into agile processes, automating things like summarizing code reviews, analyzing sprint velocity data to identify bottlenecks, making those feedback loops faster and more data-driven.
And you mentioned augmentation earlier. Augmented reality, AR, in engineering.
Definitely. AR tools are being used to overlay digital information, schematics, schedules, sensor readings onto the physical environment. Imagine a network engineer on site.
They can see the plan overlaid on the actual racks.
Exactly. Or see live performance data for specific equipment just by looking at it through AR glasses. It allows for much faster context-aware decisions right there on the spot.
Okay, that's the now. What about the next for IT and engineering PMs? What's coming down the pipe?
We'll see that AI-enhanced hybrid PM become much more common. AI tools actively suggesting shifts between agile sprints and more structured waterfall phases based on project performance and changing requirements. Also, the rise of what the sources call cognitive project assistants. These go beyond basic copilots. They analyze project data, yes, but also organizational constraints, maybe even external market shifts, to offer truly tailored strategic advice and recommendations.
Taking even more off the PM's plate, freeing them for higher-level strategy.
That's the goal. And that copilot for Microsoft 365 we discussed, in IT, it becomes even more powerful because it can tap into everything: documents in SharePoint, conversations in Teams, code repositories, your OneDrive files. Using things like the Microsoft Graph API, it can generate highly personalized task suggestions, risk warnings, status updates, all based on the specific context of your projects, even pulling info from your emails and calendar.
Wow, a truly integrated assistant.
Yeah. And we'll also see more use of specialized industry cloud platforms, cloud services tailored with tools and data models for specific sectors like engineering and edge computing.
Processing data closer to where it's generated.
Right. Crucial for reducing latency in projects involving real-time control systems, IoT sensors, or autonomous robots.
Okay, let's switch to healthcare. A very different world. Accuracy, patient safety. The stakes are incredibly high. What are the current AI trends PMs are managing there?
Well, predictive analytics is big here too, but focused on things like optimizing hospital resource allocation, predicting patient admissions to manage bed availability, staffing levels, scheduling operating rooms more efficiently, reducing wait times, improving flow.
Using historical data for better planning.
Exactly. AI is also heavily involved in enhancing diagnostics, helping radiologists interpret scans faster and more accurately, analyzing ECGs in cardiology. And a really critical area is real-time error detection during surgery.
AI monitoring procedures as they happen.
Yeah, monitoring vital signs, tracking surgical steps against protocols, cross-referencing patient data, flagging potential deviations or anomalies much faster than the human eye could catch them. A crucial safety net.
That focus on near-zero error must shape future trends too. What's next, given the intense regulations?
Well, because clinical applications face such high bars for safety and regulation, think ISPA, GDPR, a major near-term trend, is actually applying advanced AI more heavily to administrative tasks first.
Like scheduling and billing.
Exactly. Automating patient scheduling, medical coding, processing insurance claims, handling billing inquiries. The tolerance for error is slightly higher there than in direct patient care, making it a safer space for initial large-scale AI deployment while the clinical applications mature.
But the really game-changing stuff is still coming in patient care, right?
Oh, absolutely. The potential is enormous. Think about prescriptive analytics. AI analyzing a patient's entire history, genetics, lifestyle, past treatment responses to recommend the optimal treatment path or medication, especially for complex conditions like mental illness.
Cutting down that awful trial and error period for finding the right drug.
Exactly. Minimizing suffering and speeding up recovery. And the sources also highlighted brain-computer interface, BCI technology.
BCI,
Yeah.
connecting brains to computers.
Yeah, it's progressing incredibly fast. For project management in healthcare or accessibility tech, this could allow people with severe paralysis to operate computers, control assistive devices, maybe even virtual assistants, just using their thoughts. It opens up entirely new possibilities for accessibility and control in complex environments.
That's truly transformative. Okay, let's move to construction, another complex field. Design, visualization, safety. How's AI changing things there?
Generative AI is making big inroads in the design phase right now. Optimizing building designs not just for aesthetics, but for structural integrity, material efficiency, energy performance, cost, juggling all those variables simultaneously.
Finding better designs faster.
Much faster. And augmented virtual reality, often linked to digital twins, is a major current trend, creating a virtual replica of the construction site, fed with real-time data from sensors.
Allows PMs to monitor progress remotely.
Yes, and crucially, to spot potential problems before they happen. Running simulations on the digital twin. What if this material is delayed? What if there's heavy rain? Allows for anticipatory mitigation, making decisions based on predicted outcomes, whether you're on-site with AR or viewing the twin remotely.
Very cool. And looking ahead in construction, more safety focus.
Definitely. AI-enhanced safety planning is a big one. Algorithms analyzing past incident data, current site conditions from drones or sensors, weather forecasts. to predict specific hazards with much higher accuracy.
So safety training becomes much more targeted.
Exactly. Tailoring briefings and precautions for specific crews, specific locations, specific tasks based on predicted risks. We'll also see more AI-integrated drones doing autonomous site inspections, progress monitoring, quality checks, safety surveys reducing human risk in hazardous areas, and providing much more frequent data.
And generative AI beyond just buildings.
Yeah, the sources mentioned using Gen AI for larger-scale urban planning, designing road networks, bridges, public transport routes, optimizing not just for construction cost, but for long-term goals like traffic flow, environmental impact, community access.
Fascinating. Finally, let's touch on retail, customer experience, operations. What are PMs focused on there currently?
A lot of the current focus is customer-facing. Sophisticated chatbots and virtual assistants handling customer service queries 24/7, managing orders, processing returns, basic troubleshooting, freeing up human agents for more complex issues.
And behind the scenes, inventory, pricing.
Huge areas. AI-powered inventory management is critical for predicting demand, automating reordering, minimizing stockouts or costly overstock situations. And dynamic pricing optimization is widespread, adjusting prices automatically based on competitor pricing, demand signals, time of day, even weather forecasts.
Keeping prices optimal in real time. What's next for retail AI? What should PMs be preparing for?
Get ready for more AI in physical stores. Things like smart mirrors that suggest outfits based on your style or past purchases. Augmented reality, AR, will become much more common for virtual try-ons online, seeing how furniture looks in your living room or how clothes fit on your avatar.
Bringing the online experience closer to physical.
Exactly. We'll also see much more automation in warehouses, AI-driven robotics for picking, packing, sorting orders. And a really interesting future trend is blending blockchain with AI for transparent supply chains.
Letting customers track exactly where their product came from.
Yes, providing verifiable information about sourcing, manufacturing, shipping, building trust, especially with ethically minded consumers. That transparency becomes a project goal in itself. #tag ZII. Outro.
You know, looking across all these sectors, IT, healthcare, construction, retail, the sheer speed and breadth of change driven by AI is, well, it's incredible. It really underlines the need for continuous learning. Sam Altman's point about the technology being on a very steep improvement curve for the next 5-10 years, that really resonates. What we think is cutting edge today might be standard practice next year or even obsolete the year after.
Exactly. Standing still just isn't an option.
No, it really isn't. So for you listening, preparing for this AI-driven future isn't just a good idea, it's essential. What are the practical steps? Well, start using these Gen AI tools yourself, get comfortable with them, look into acquiring some technical skills, maybe basic programming concepts, data analysis principles, and definitely that prompt engineering we talked about.
And don't forget the human side. Invest heavily in those soft skills: communication, emotional intelligence, strategic thinking, change leadership. That's where your unique value will increasingly lie.
Right. Join professional groups, network with others grappling with AI in your field. Stay curious. Continuous learning isn't just a buzzword anymore, it's a survival skill.
And the big takeaway, really, is that AI isn't diminishing the project manager's role, it's elevating it. As Pierre Lemont put it, AI handles the low-value tasks.
Freeing you up for the complex strategic work, leading effectively.
Exactly. The real power, the real future, is in that smart collaboration between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. It fundamentally changes how we measure project success, shifting from just delivering on time and budget to maximizing strategic value.
So the role shifts from being primarily an execution expert, someone who manages tasks, to becoming a more strategic, maybe even creative leader. And that leads us to the final thought for you today. Armed with these principles, this view of the future, the question really becomes, are you ready to make that shift? Are you ready to move your focus from managing tasks to leading strategy with AI as your essential collaborative partner?
Because that's the path forward in the AI-powered future of project management.